is a breaking news update from Channel 69 Action News. I'm Jason Solomon. Actually, it's public access. This weekend, a milestone achievement as the Solomonster celebrates the 10-year anniversary of his Solomonster Sounds Off podcast, which is a favorite amongst a lot of people here at the network, I can tell you. And in those 10 years, there's been much to celebrate. From the legendary battle at WrestleMania between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, to CM Punk's infamous pipe bomb, the rise of the unlikeliest of heroes in Daniel Bryan, The Shield, and the WWE debut of one AJ Styles. But there have also been a lot of moments that we would like to forget in WWE over the last 10 years. For example, Raw's permanent expansion to 3 hours. It's too long. The show, it's just... who's gonna sit there for 3 hours and watch this stuff every week? Stephanie McMahon on our TV screens. Kurt Angle. She did it to Kurt Angle. It's like, what the fuck is wrong? I apologize for that outburst. Jinder Mahal as WWE champion. I need a drink. I'm sorry. I just, I need a drink here, and it's just, this is what gets me through the, don't touch me. They had Kane pin Finn Balor. Kane. Oh.
Jason Solomon. 10. This guy started the podcast back in 2007. He's from Brooklyn, New York. Royal Rumble, favorite one, 1992. Congratulations, Jason Solomon and Solomonster Sounds Off.
God, I don't know if I could fight my friend. That's what he said. What was this, UFC now? Fight your fucking friend. Roman Reigns came to the ring, which was filled with tables and ladders and chairs, oh my. Corporate Kane, Demon Kane, Seaman Kane, whatever. Let me school you, son. Josh Matthews is the best in the world at what he does. I would like to know exactly what it is that he does. If talking like you've got a stick shoved so far up your ass it's coming out your eyeballs is what he does, then yes. So we went from talking about the anus to then talking about handjobs, lube, and ass cream.
10.
I like to think that every time a wrestler uses a super kick as a setup move and not a finish, a single tear runs down Shawn Michaels' face from his lazy eye. If Brock was a eunuch, he would be unstoppable. And her robe, when she comes out, they're all so colorful. She's like a Japanese version of Macho Man with a vagina. They give us the dreaded fuck finish. Lame. You want to do the finish where the guy gets DQ'd for kicking ass? How about not doing it with your Intercontinental Champion? How about that? Some of these matches will go 10, 12, 15 minutes only to get a fuck finish or no finish at all in the end. If WWE insists on fucking the fans over so many times, the least they can do is buy us dinner first.
10.
USA Network has stuck the steroid needle in Raw's ass and expanded it to 3 hours. This is Raw on steroids.
He really was not missed. Maybe by the kids, but fuck the kids. I don't care about the kids. I don't have any kids.
This is the Sound Off. There's a reason the word wrestling is not anywhere in the title of the show. I can pretty much sound off on anything.
So in closing, Michael Jackson is dead. Let him rest in peace. Let him be buried. And let life go on. There's more important news in the world that we need to know about instead of knowing what killed Michael Jackson. Because quite frankly, I don't give a shit.
It's business time, baby.
The Solomonster Sounds Off.
My client
Mama Monster
conquered the street. This doesn't make any sense.
Your title belt is made of leather. You're not a real vegan.
He's fat. Delete. You haven't been beat up properly. Woo!
This is the 10-year anniversary episode of the Solomonster Sounds Off, episode 520, live on YouTube, here for Sunday, November 5th, 2017. I am the Solomonster. 10 years of this shit. Do you believe this? 10 years. It's hard for me to believe. We have a lot of activity for those of you who are in the video chat right now. People are going nuts. We got over 1,200 people already, and we're just getting started here. 520 episodes, 66 Sound Off Extra episodes right here on YouTube, 34 episodes of the SE Scoops live show that Noah and I used to host back in the day. I would be very remiss if I didn't thank Webmaster Mike right off the bat here for his support, and SE Scoops for being the launching pad for this show all those many years ago. TV Tracks, I mean, for God's sakes, what can I say? Tracks is awesome. A lot of you never would have known about this show were it not for TV Tracks. And I take pride in the fact that 7 of the top 10 most popular videos on TV Tracks are clips of this very podcast. It's almost 1.4 million views just for those 7 clips alone. So give Tracks a sub if you haven't already done so. I've got another Q&A I'm working on for his channel that should be up very soon. The graphics, you're going to see a whole bunch of images and graphics here. Obviously no video component here this time. I had enough on my plate as it is to worry about that. But the graphic that you're looking at right now, actually that you'll be looking at in just a little bit, comes courtesy of Salrex. You can follow him on Twitter at SalrexGaming. The one you're looking at right now and many of the others is courtesy of Steve Mello, who does tremendous work for us here. He is responsible for a lot of the recent t-shirt designs. And wait until you see the image that he did for the WWE Unreleased Matches DVD review that I'm going to be getting up here in the next couple of weeks. I love this thing. So be sure to give his website a visit, ProWrestlingLinks.com. Just to give you a little sense of where things were in 2007 when I started this show, the very first Sound Off was recorded on a Tuesday, November 6, 2007. A whopping 7 minutes long was that podcast, talking Monday Night Raw from the night before. And what happened on that show, you might ask? Stone Cold Steve Austin brought out the beer truck once again. He hosed down Santino Marella. Hacksaw Jim Duggan teamed with Super Crazy to beat Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas. I swear I haven't started drinking yet. I know a lot of you aren't going to believe me, but I have not started drinking yet. That was actually a tag team, although I do have my Jack and Coke here in front of me, which you may be able to hear. But no, I have not started drinking yet. That match really did happen. Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Super Crazy were a tag team. I have no memory of this whatsoever. But there you go. And in the main event, you had Randy Orton and Umaga against D-Generation X, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels. So that was what was going on when the Sound Off first dropped all those many years ago. And here we are today with Jinder Mahal as the WWE Champion. We are less than 500 subscribers away from 30,000 here on this channel. So if you have not already done so while you are listening, please hit that sub button and give this stream a thumbs up, if you would be so kind. I may be giving away some 10-year anniversary Sound Off shirts here throughout the show. We'll see, time permitting, to a handful maybe of random callers. You see the number there on your screen. Actually, we're going to, let me switch over here to this screen here just so you can see it. So you see the phone number here is on your screen. There it is, 917. Let me just make sure I have this correct here. 917-809-7297 is the phone number. If the lines are jammed, which I'm sure they are, keep trying. We had over 10,000 drop calls alone last time. That was just from people who were trying to get through. I promise, as the night goes on, I will try to get to as many of you as I can. So again, if at first you don't succeed, try again. I know you guys want to hear my thoughts on a lot of news, and there is a lot to get into, so I promise you I will try to get through this as quickly as I can. But this show is as much about you guys as it is about anything else. I would not be here right now doing this were it not for your support. A lot of you did donate via PayPal to the show this week, and I want to give you your just desserts. I will be doing shout-outs throughout the show. I am not doing them all here at once. We will be here forever if I do that. So if you do not hear your name now, fear not. You will hear it at some point during the show. We went almost 4.5 hours on episode 500 back in June. I don't plan on going that long tonight, but we'll go as long as it takes. So right off the bat, thank you to John Loose Cannon Lopez. You know what I think about you. You're awesome. John is one of my biggest supporters. I know he's listening. Thank you to him. Deadpool James Herrera who a lot of you, after seeing his photo on Twitter this week, thinks bears a striking resemblance to Rusev. James must be celebrating Rusev Day, probably takes off from work and everything. Chuck Lunatic Lentz, who's been listening now for almost 6 years and has always been a big supporter. I was happy to see his name here on the 10-year anniversary roll call. Beast Mode Brock Joseph, the Florida Freebird Bryant Becerra, Out of Control Cody Thomas, Luis Hercules Hernandez, Hot Stuff Hector Pena, The Dark Serpent Derek Gibbs, Raymond the Mountie Medina, Massgrave Micah Harshaw, Keith the Conqueror Krajnik, Sean Nasty Boy Nilsson, Jerome You're Going Down Eugenio, Fast Blast Tim Banks. Good mic work. Got a very nice letter from him this week from Greg. Definitely check out his work. You can also check out his clips on TV Tracks. Good mic work is awesome. He's got my thumbs up seal of approval. The Show Off, Corey Van Dam. And Corey, if you're listening, I tried emailing you, but I got a bounce back for some reason, so thank you for your very generous donation. Pull No Punches, Alan Regassa, Killshot Keith Hart, Velvet Revolver Robert Murray, the Chicago Slayer Willie Eichard, the Berlin Boy Wonder, Marcus Werner, Lee Hired Gun Hyronics, Matt Game Over Gafferta, Brett Brickfist Broad, Ryan the Dagger McTaggart, the Macho Messiah, AC Smith, ooh yeah, Max the Axe Villado and the Bakersfield Brawler Kevin Villado, they are the sibling psychos. Rolex Robin Party, Jimmy the Mailman Milstead, the Five-Tool Player Adam Bartolo, Hard to Beat Daniel Belenki, the Demon of the Prairie Scott Silver, Matthew Moneybags Morocco. Whew, this is exhausting here. Judge and Jerry Justin Girardi, the Nomad, Damon Chan, who wants you all to know that Evolve 96 is coming to Corona, New York on Saturday, December 9th. William Regal making a special appearance on that show. You can save 10% on tickets if you order through ticketfly.com. Just use the code EVOLVENOW. By the way, the audio of this will be pushed out to the feed tomorrow as episode 520 for those of you who like to listen through iTunes and Stitcher and all that good stuff. All right, enough of that. Let's get into the news here. Finally, at long last, I was at an indie show last night. That's the only reason this show is happening tonight instead of on Saturday night, so if last night was a better night for you, sorry, don't know what to tell you. I was at a local indie show. They had a bunch of ex-WWE guys on there. Mordecai. I haven't seen Mordecai in forever. I guess back when he was in the relaunched ECW was Kevin Fatigue. But there he was in the Mordecai getup, and he didn't really do a whole hell of a lot. In fact, he got his ass beat for about 98% of the match, but he won. He was on the card. Danny Burch, who we just saw on NXT about a week or two ago, he was on the show. We had Bull Dempsey and Billy Gunn. What a tag team that was in the main event against Joey Mercury and Adam Rose. And we had Tommy Dreamer stealing the show in a match against the Man of Steel, Mike Verna, who people here in Brooklyn and on the East Coast are very familiar with. He's a name to watch out for, young guy. Very impressive. They tore the house down. I mean, Dreamer does the kind of match that Dreamer does. He knows what his limitations are. He's not moving around as well as he used to. And yes, there was plunder and garbage, and they brought a ladder in that almost killed people in the front row. But the place gave them a standing ovation. They were going nuts for it. It was awesome, so I want to give those two a shout-out. So, fun times for Outlaw Wrestling here in Brooklyn last night. But I want to talk about what you guys, I'm sure, would like to hear about, which is this. Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho are in the news. After Kenny Omega retained his United States Championship over Trent Beretta at New Japan's Power Struggle show early this morning, he got on the mic. He said, I've got no competition left. There's nobody left to challenge me. Well, he does have some competition, I would say, in Kota Ibushi, but that's for another time. The lights went out, and a video played showing Chris Jericho, who Omega has been in a Twitter war with, a war of words in recent weeks. Jericho called himself the Alpha, I guess, to Kenny's Omega. Very cool play on words there. He said that he was the best in the world, and he challenged Omega to a match at Wrestle Kingdom 12, coming up on January 4th in the Tokyo Dome, which, of course, Kenny accepted. I never bought into their little Twitter spat, but I assumed it was all just a way to plug. Jericho has this Wrestle Cruise that he's hosting next fall. He's going to have a bunch of Ring of Honor guys on there. They're going to have matches on the ship. I thought we might get Jericho against Omega on the high seas or something like that. I sure as shit didn't expect Jericho to be wrestling in less than 2 months on a New Japan show. So my reaction when I saw that this morning was probably your reaction, which was, holy shit. And I say good on New Japan. Good on New Japan for pulling this off. Good on Jericho and Omega for keeping this thing quiet. That's a very hard thing to do these days with leaks and all that kind of stuff. And they managed to pull the wool over pretty much everyone's eyes. Now, a lot of you have been asking, well, how could Jericho do this? Is he not under contract to WWE? Well, my understanding is that Jericho doesn't have any sort of long-term contract with WWE. I mean, he's pretty much, I think, talked about this before. He's got a series of short-term deals that he signs. I'm not even sure he's under any contract right now as we speak. Obviously not. But Jericho's going to talk about this on his podcast. I'm sure of it. He'll shed some more light on this. You know, he's the man with the answers. I don't have all the answers. My guess, on the question of did he give Vince McMahon a heads up, I'm sure he did. I would be very, very surprised to find out that Jericho did not give a heads up to Triple H or Vince McMahon. Jericho's been very vocal in the past when people have asked him, would you go to TNA? Would you go to Ring of Honor? Would you go to New Japan? And he's always said no. He goes, there's no point to going to a TNA. No offense to them, but and this is what he said, no offense to them, but why would he settle for anything less than the best in the world? And the biggest company in the world, whether you like him or not, is WWE. He's got a nice relationship with them. He can come and go as he pleases. He goes, he does his music, he comes back, he does one shot, disappears again, probably gets paid good money for it. What's not to like? Obviously, he has a lot of respect for Kenny Omega, or he would not be doing this. The last time Jericho was in New Japan or in the Tokyo Dome was probably about 20 years ago. If I remember, I think the last match he had there was about 19 or 20 years ago, so it's been a very long time. Jericho wrestled a lot in Japan. I think he's mentioned he's had over 60 tours of Japan or something like that. He's very well known, very well regarded over there. And I would be stunned. If we find out this week that he did not give Vince McMahon a heads up about this, I would be stunned. Because my sense is the relationship he has with Vince is one of honesty. And I'm sure he has some sense of loyalty to Vince, and he would go, look, this is what I'm doing. Whether you like it or not, I'm doing it. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if Vince McMahon's reaction was, all right, cool. You do you. Good luck. Maybe there are other people in WWE who are very pissed off and upset about this. Vince and Jericho have a personal relationship with each other. As long as Jericho's honest about things and he's not under contract, he's not doing anything wrong. He has no reason to be upset with him. And the thing about Jericho is, when this guy's career is said and done, okay, when the book is closed on the career of Jericho, he will truly go down as one of the greatest of all time. Because if you look at his body of work, not just in terms of matches and work rate and all that kind of stuff, but when you look at what this guy has done, all the places in the world that he's been, getting over, obviously he wrestled all over the world, but getting over in Japan, getting over in Mexico, coming to the U.S., getting over in WCW, getting over in WWE, becoming a world champion, headlining a WrestleMania. He leaves for 2.5 years, comes back, reinvents himself, arguably has the best run of his career in 2008. That run he had, that program with Shawn Michaels, which was just a masterstroke as far as storytelling and wrestling goes, and the matches they had were phenomenal. And the guy has reinvented himself about 3 or 4 times since then. He can be a heel, he can be a babyface. His most recent run, The List of Jericho, the guy got over a potted plant, a scarf, and a piece of paper. If that doesn't put him in the Hall of Fame all by itself, I don't know what does. And this, I think, is just another notch for this guy. The fact that after having this long career in WWE, he can pull off something like this. New Japan's hot right now. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that New Japan is as big as WWE. But New Japan is hot right now, and they're starting to break into the U.S., and they got a lot of buzz around them, and I'm sure he recognizes that. And for him to pull this off and to be wrestling in the Tokyo Dome on their biggest show of the year against the guy who you can make the argument is the best in the world, or one of the best in the world, and be in one of the feature matches on their biggest show of the year, their WrestleMania. That's a big feather in his cap. Now, I'm excited about this because, look, I know he's older. He's, 45, 46, I think Jericho is right now. And some of his recent matches, look, you could tell he's a little heavier, he's a little older, a little slower. He's not the Jericho that he was 5 or 10 years ago, right? Getting old is a bitch. Father Time, the only bitch bigger than Father Time is Mother Nature. Mother Nature and Father Time make a hell of a couple, I must say. So, he's not the Jericho of old, but the last time we saw him was SmackDown, right? A few months ago, he was in that 3-way with Kevin Owens and AJ Styles. I thought he accounted for himself very well. They had a great match. It's not like Jericho's going out there and embarrassing himself. The guy goes out there, he could still have a great match. And if you don't think that this guy is going to be extra motivated, big match like this, back in Japan, back in the Tokyo Dome, probably the final time in his career, you're out of your mind. He will be as motivated as he's been probably in years. Now, New Japan is a promotion that's known for work rate, good matches, great matches. So I don't know that Jericho can go out there and have the kind of match that Okada can have, okay? But he doesn't have to. It's an attraction. If you can't admit that this is a big, big attraction and there's a reason for people to be excited about it, you're fooling yourself. That's why I'm excited for this. Maybe they go out there, ooh, they have a 4-star match. Well, whoop-de-friggin' do. Who cares? That's not what this is about. I mean, I know the tagline for the match is who's the best in the world. I'm not sure either one of them are. But it's going to be a huge attraction, and it's genius on New Japan's part. This is a company that's trying to break into the U.S. If you don't think this is going to help them, of course it's going to help them. So this is nothing but a thumbs up all around. I suspect that we'll find out more this week if WWE is not very happy about this, but I cannot imagine that he didn't give Vince a heads up about this. And you look at that Wrestle Kingdom card. That's a top of the card that has Okada against Naito for the IWGP title. A match that they have been building for months. And Chris Jericho against Kenny Omega. Beats the hell out of Jinder Mahal against Brock Lesnar, doesn't it? Or Jinder Mahal against John Cena at WrestleMania, which it sure as hell seems like is the direction that we're headed. You had Triple H just showed up with Pete Dunne earlier today at an ICW show in Cardiff. Actually, I think it was last night. I saw that, I'm like, this was right after the Jericho news. I saw this and I'm like, what the hell is going on in wrestling this year? It's weird, but I like it. I do like it. I'd like to see more of it. The New York Post broke the news about Raw's 25th anniversary coming not only to the Barclays Center here in Brooklyn on January 22nd, but they will be broadcasting live from, wait for it, see this is where I should have had a drum roll sound effect, the Manhattan Center in New York City. How about that? How about that? And they're using the Grand Ballroom, 8 floors up, which is where Raw was held back in '93. They are not using the Hammerstein Ballroom downstairs, which does fit more people. And I saw they were using like hashtag Hammerstein, or they were adding on Twitter the Hammerstein Ballroom. That does not mean they're running the Hammerstein. That just means that the Grand Ballroom upstairs is so old and so shitty, it doesn't have its own Twitter handle. So they have to use the handle for the Hammerstein, but they are not using the Hammerstein. Boy, I feel like I just got done talking about this last week, didn't I? I hope they bring back the siren. Remember the Raw siren? I can't see the chat right now, but I'm sure I want people in the chat to tell me if they remember the Raw siren from back in '93. They will present matches live from both locations, switching back and forth between the two buildings, the Barclays Center and the Manhattan Center. So they are going to be basically running shows from 2 different locations. The last time they held matches live from 2 different places would have been, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it would have been the Raw Nitro simulcast from March of 2001. Before that, you'd have to go all the way back to WrestleMania 2, back in 1986, which was broadcast from 3 different locations and then was never attempted again, which tells you how much of a success that was. There was a Raw show from 1997 where they broadcast matches from 2 or 3 different places around the world. One, I know for a fact one of them was South Africa, although that was a taped show, so it's not exactly the same thing. But that show, oh my God. I mean, the show from South Africa when they went to those matches, that entire episode of Raw to this day is one of the most boring episodes of Raw that I have ever seen. And I've watched every episode of Raw for the last 2 years. So that's saying a lot. Raw and SmackDown stars will be appearing, as well as legends including Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, both of whom appeared on the very first episode of Raw back in 1993. And Kevin Nash will be there. He didn't come into WWE for a few months, until a few months later, I should say. This will be Undertaker's first televised appearance since losing to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 33, and already there's speculation about what it could mean for a possible WrestleMania match for next year's show. Hopefully nothing. Hopefully nothing. For those asking, I got tweets, are you going to the show? Because I've been talking about this for so long. I would love to go to the show, but tickets sold out in about a minute, and the prices were ridiculous. I did have one ticket presented to me for about $300. I said, thank you, no. I cannot in good conscience spend that much money on Monday Night Raw. I just can't. I can't bring myself to do it. You could have Raw from a castle in the sky, and I just couldn't bring myself to pay that kind of money for Raw. But they're doing exactly what I said they should do on last week's podcast. Run the smaller building and just mark up the prices because people are going to pay for it. I mean, prices went from $78 up to $800. Actually, in excess of $800, even more than that. My price range is a hell of a lot closer to the $78 than it is the $800. So I was pretty much shit out of luck from the word go. It was the four of us, the four horsemen. We're going to go. Noah and myself and Webmaster Mike and Brian Blade. But we failed. Actually, Noah and Brian are going. They were at the very first Raw back in 1993 in that grand ballroom, so they're going back to where it all began for them, so good for them. I'll be watching Raw from the comfort of my own home for free. $800. Think about that. From Monday Night Raw. You're out of your fucking mind if you think I would pay anywhere close to that to go to Monday Night Raw. Some of these shows they put on, they should have to pay me to go see them. But that one should be fun. Oh, back to Undertaker for a second here before we move on. Actually, let me just take a quick drink here. It is a party tonight, So back to The Undertaker for a second. There is a story going around, I'm sure many of you saw this, that originated in the UK Sun, which got a lot of play. And a lot of you have made it very clear to me in the past that the Sun is useful for nothing more than wiping your ass with, okay? You've made that loud and clear. But they posted a story about porn star, hopefully by now ex-porn star, Jenna Jameson, claiming The Undertaker once tried to kidnap her. And it's not really a UK Sun story so much as they're just digging up a story that she told in her autobiography, which was released 5 years ago. Why this is suddenly headline news, I don't know. It must have been a slow news week. So the story may well be true. So this was too good not to mention. And she goes into this, I'm not going to repeat the whole story, but she tells the story about being at I think it was like a bar or a strip club or whatever. And this guy comes up to her and The Undertaker is there. And The Undertaker had his eyes locked on her. And she would have been very, very young back then. And I think the story, I don't have it in front of me, but the story was something to the effect of the guy offered to buy her a drink. And then The Undertaker is like staring at this guy like he's going to murder him. And he says, yeah, you can get me a shot of Jaeger and you can get yourself a shot of shut the fuck up. That is The Undertaker that I wanted one more run from a few years ago. Remember that? Remember I was saying, like, if Undertaker's having one final run, I would love for it to be closer to like that big evil Undertaker who actually spoke like a normal human being. I feel like as broken down as this guy's body may be, the mind and the mouth are still there. And we know The Undertaker can cut a badass promo. Actually, The Undertaker will be, as Mark Calloway is going to be part of that Ric Flair ESPN documentary, the 30 for 30. It debuts on Tuesday. He's part of that special. We'll get to see him out of character talking about Ric Flair. That's The Undertaker I wanted to see more of one more time before he retired, and they never did it. But, Big Evil. Trash-talking Undertaker. That's the one that I miss. So anyway, there you go. Lio Rush. One more story here before we get to your calls and Raw and all that good stuff. Lio Rush. This sort of happened, I guess the same day as I dropped my show last week, so it's a little dated by now, but I want to make sure I have a chance just to talk about it here. Lio Rush made a very unfortunate mistake last weekend in light of the news of Emma being released by WWE, which I thought maybe it was her request, and I still don't know all the details about whether or not it was or not, but she posted a tweet with a little heartbreak emoji, which tells me it probably was not her decision, which makes it even worse. But he posted a tweet that he thought was funny about, I guess something like, I guess she really wasn't ready for Asuka or something like that. Clearly he meant it tongue-in-cheek as a joke, and he got filleted. He got filleted by social media. He got filleted by other wrestlers in the company. He very quickly realized what he had done. He apologized, which only seemed to make things worse because it seemed like he was apologizing that people were offended not that he was actually sorry for what he said. At least that's how Jack Gallagher took it. Tons of main roster and NXT talent went after this guy. Bray Wyatt said, "You ain't gonna make it here with the Wolves, kid." Kevin Owens, Dash Wilder called him a jackass, I think. Peyton Royce, even Road Dogg. Now think about this. For everybody saying that, oh, this is no big deal and this is all just overblown, maybe so. But Road Dogg is in a position of power on SmackDown. Here's a guy who's in a position of power on the main roster. And somebody tweeted him about Leo, is he going to face consequences for his actions? And Road Dogg very ominously replied, he will. We'll make sure of that. Not something you want to hear if you're an NXT talent with aspirations of making the main roster one day. A lot of you pointed out Tough Enough Josh, which is something I was going to bring up. Let us not forget Tough Enough Josh Brettel, who went by the name of Bronson Matthews at the Performance Center. I believe he is still there. There was some talk about him being released, but to my understanding, he's still with the company. He was actually not fired. His story is he's watching Raw one night. The social outcasts are on TV. And he tweets out social jobbers as it relates to the social outcasts. And the floodgates open. Kevin Owens went after him. Bull Dempsey went after him. Cody Rhodes called him a dick. Told him he'd be dressing in the hallway for the rest of his career. If you're in the wrestling business and you're new to the business, no less, right? Or at least this company. And you got your big break by winning a $250,000 contract on a reality show. It's not very smart to refer to your peers as jobbers. Like, the fans can do it because they don't have to look these guys in the eye and actually work with them. But you can see how that would have gotten this guy a megaton of heat, which it did. The guy was young, he was inexperienced, and he paid a price for it. Lio Rush is also very young. He's only 22. He'll learn from this. I don't think he'll be fired for it. I think that, or it would have happened by now. Nor do I think he should be fired. I think that's a little extreme. I see it. There was a petition online. What is with people in these stupid petitions? There was a petition online to get WWE to fire Lio Rush. Now you know why I ignore these things. They're useless. They mean absolutely nothing because they're a joke. And this is another example of that. Maybe I'll start my own petition to have the person who started this petition barred from ever making another petition ever again. I think if Lio Rush gets released at some point, it's going to be because his behavior gets him into trouble in some other way. I've heard enough stories from different people who know him, who have worked with him, where the consensus seems to be that the guy can be his own worst enemy. He's talented as all hell, but maybe he needed this. Maybe in the end this will turn out to be a good thing for him. This maybe can serve as a wake-up call for him. My whole thing is, it doesn't matter if you're 22 or you're 42. How do you ever think it's appropriate to tweet something like that in a public forum about a colleague? Somebody who works for the same company, not an hour after that person loses their job. How do you think that's ever an appropriate thing to do? It's sheer stupidity. So my guess is this sets his career back at least a year or two. And if he can stay out of trouble after that, he'll end up on 205 Live one day. Although I would not rule out a surprise appearance in the Royal Rumble match. When I said that on Facebook, I was only half joking. Let us never forget Daniel Puder back in 2005 and what that poor bastard went through at the hands of Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, and Hardcore Holly. Maybe they send poor Leo out there at number 4. And then number 5, they send out Braun Strowman. So poor Leo here may not be out of the woods yet. We have a lot of people waiting in queue for phone calls. So what I think we'll do here before we get into Raw and the rest of the news is try to dive into your phone calls here. I'm just bringing up. Yeah, we've got a ton of calls here. We have a ton of calls. So let's take a few of them here, and we will start here with 484. I believe one of the longtime listeners of the show. I believe we have Tyler on the line. Tyler, are you there?
I am here.
Tyler, the Boss Williams, calling into the Sound Off here. And how are you doing tonight?
I am doing well. It feels special to be the first person on the line. I must say that. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well. So what is your question here on the 10-year anniversary show?
Well, before I start, I do want to say congratulations for making it to 10 years. That is quite the accomplishment. I started listening, I believe, after WrestleMania 30, and I've been listening every single Sunday since. So you've been doing an awesome job, and I hope you keep it up, man.
Thank you very much.
But I did have, one question. I asked you three, but one you said stood out. So hold on. I'm going to bring it up. Okay, I have it right here. So it's in regard to the Undertaker returning on the 25th anniversary of Monday Night Raw and how that could relate to the main event of WrestleMania being Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. So basically, my question was, what if the Undertaker returns on the 25th anniversary of Monday Night Raw, which he is, and he comes out to announce his retirement because that's what people would think he's there to do. But he's interrupted by Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar, who bring up the point that, you retiring in the city in which we beat you at WrestleMania and all this kind of stuff. And this basically, sidetracks the Undertaker from retiring, and we see him leave or whatever, whatever happens.
It's an interesting idea.
And
go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. Someone was talking to me. I'm actually kind of at work right now, but I'm just trying to be on the loud. So fast forward to the Royal Rumble, which, reminder, is the same week of Monday Night Raw. And Roman Reigns wins the Royal Rumble. And, of course, the fans are going to boo. I'll be live in attendance, so I'm going to boo as well. But in the midst of this happening, he wins. Brock Lesnar comes out to shake his hand, and the gong goes off. And the Undertaker comes out and delivers a choke slam to both men and announces that he will be participating in the main event WrestleMania match. It will be the Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship, and that will be his last match. I just want to know, what do you think about that idea, and who would you both win that match?
That's a good question. So thank you, Tyler. We're going to move along here. I'll answer that for you, but thank you for calling in. That's an interesting scenario, the idea that The Undertaker could have one more match, and for people who are not happy about the rumored main event being Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, what if you were to add The Undertaker to that match and make it a triple threat match? I'm not a big fan of doing multi-man matches in WrestleMania main events, but that idea intrigued me. Now my opinion is not wavered. The Undertaker should never wrestle again. I am sticking by that. I don't believe that he should wrestle another match. I think the send-off he had at WrestleMania this year was perfect. I thought it was fine. There was nothing in his match with Roman Reigns that made me think, man, I sure do want to see another Undertaker match. He looked great. He turned back the hands of time. No, he didn't. And so I think for him, with the hat and the robe and everything else, leaving it in the middle of the ring, he lowers down to hell in a puff of smoke and the lights go out. For the Undertaker character, you could argue that he should have won. He should go out with a win. But aside from that, I can't think of a better way for the guy to go out. I mean, honestly. So I really don't want to see him come back. But if he was to come back, honestly, a triple threat match or a multi-man match is probably the best thing for him because it would hide whatever weaknesses he may have. One thing that I think the match with Roman Reigns showed us is, Roman Reigns is not the kind of person who can carry someone in a match, somebody who I think at this point needs to be carried. He's not that guy. I mean, there are guys who can do it. AJ Styles, I think, is a guy who can do it. Roman Reigns, he's not that guy. So that's number one. And number two, Undertaker has certain things that he can do, but in a singles match, I just don't think it's the way to go with him. I think you would have to almost hide him. Well, maybe hide isn't the right word, but sort of hide him in a way by putting him in a multi-man match, and it would make the match more interesting. I will say, as much as I enjoyed Brock and Roman at WrestleMania 31, I don't really get all of the hate for that as a match. I can understand people hating on Roman Reigns being in the WrestleMania main event again, but as a match, I think Brock and Roman probably would have a pretty great match, just because I happen to love their match at WrestleMania 31. But it would certainly make the match more interesting, I think, if you were to include somebody else and make it a three-way match. Let's take a few more calls. We have... Oh, this is interesting. We have Vince on the line. Vince, is that you? Vince, are you there?
I think I'm here. I don't even know if things are working. Hello? Testing 1, 2, 3.
Oh my goodness. Is that Vince McMahon on the line?
Yes, Solomonster. It is.
Vince McMahon has a very shitty cell phone because
they're going here on the 10-year anniversary.
Vince McMahon is cutting in and out. Oh my goodness. Well, Vince, what you need to do is take some of that money you have and invest in a new cell phone because your cell phone is crap. All right, thank you, Vince. I'm dropping Vince. This is terrible. Let's move on. We have a caller here. We have Chuck, I believe, is on the line. Chuck, are you there?
This is actually Josh.
Oh, okay. I had you down here. As Chuck.
No, I think it was the microphone screwing up. I think I'm not too sure though.
Well, we'll just blame it on Noah.
Just wanted to say before. Yeah. Congratulations anyway for the 10-year anniversary. Been listening to you since I think just after Raw 1000. So I say pretty long, but it's been a fantastic show nonetheless, and especially from here in the UK when Raw is at 1 a.m. in the morning and I can't be asked to get up and watch it. So your shows have been definitely a help to a fan like me.
Thank you.
So my question basically is, I am going to WrestleMania, my first ever foray into the United States of America, so I'm pretty skeptical on what's going to happen, especially with the WrestleMania card being supposed Jinder and Cena, which I am not a fan of either. In fact, I am known to despise them. So my question basically is, if, say, Jinder was a great wrestler, which I know he definitely isn't, and Cena was beloved by the fans, I guess, would the fans take it better, or would it just still sour because of the reputation obviously that Cena has? And then you've obviously got Jinder, who I'm not going to say that he has taken anything, but the history of his health and issues, looking anyway, being suspicious anyway in my view. And also with especially also with WrestleMania, I'll definitely have to go because my connection will probably cut out. Your ideal WrestleMania card that will make it more a special, like Daniel Bryan's win at WrestleMania 30, to make it similar to that, basically. What would your view on that be? How would they make it special, basically, to match that of WrestleMania 30?
Okay, good question. I mean, as far as Jinder and Cena goes, my issue with Jinder is he's been champion now for, 5 months? I think 5 months, 6 months, something like that. Which I think is more than enough time to draw a conclusion about whether or not you like the guy or not, and if you think he belongs in that spot. I've seen nothing from Jinder Mahal that would lead me to think that this guy should be in pay-per-view main events and this guy should be headlining WrestleMania. He's not that good. I mean, I think as a character and a personality, here's my issue with Jinder. Jinder Mahal should have been made the United States champion. Jinder comes out there, he talks about how Americans disrespect him and this and that, and he comes back from India and everybody in India is asking him, why do the people in America boo you? Why do they hate you? So they're playing off of that stereotype of the kind of the evil heel foreign menace, down with America and all this BS. And so why is he not the United States champion? Why was a guy who is, a perennial jobber to the stars elevated to the position of being WWE champion from 1 month to the next? There was no build. There was no sign that this was anything they were preparing the guy for. He was miscast. He should have been United States champion. He was made WWE champion. There are certain expectations that people have for big matches, and he has failed to deliver. With Randy Orton, he failed. With Shinsuke Nakamura, he's failed. Now he's going to have a match with Brock Lesnar. I don't know anybody who's really seriously looking forward to this match as a match. Maybe now that John Cena's been added as a referee, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, maybe some people will be a little more excited about it. I doubt it. If he was a better wrestler, if he was a better in-ring performer, I think that would help. But I just, this whole, to go from where he was to the position that he's been put in just seemed like a desperate attempt on their part. And if the only reason they did it was because we're looking to break into India as a market, number one, I don't get the sense. And people who are listening who may be from India, you can correct me if I'm wrong about this because you're there and I'm not. I don't get this great sense that Jinder Mahal is a big draw or is this big conquering hero and people love him over in India. I don't get that sense. That there's this overwhelming support in India for Jinder Mahal. So, if not, then why the hell is this guy the WWE champion? I don't understand it. I kind of get like if they want to try something different and use it as an experiment. It's been almost 6 months. 6 months of this. And I have seen nothing. Nothing new, nothing exciting, nothing fun. The matches are just average at best. Supposedly he's been battling an injury, like a shoulder injury. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. And if it does, then he sure as hell shouldn't be wrestling. So as far as he goes, I don't think there's anything that could be done to make me care about that at all. As far as my dream WrestleMania card, I need time to think about that. I haven't really been impressed, honestly, by what Nakamura's done on the main roster, but I have a sense that if they were to go in the direction of AJ Styles against Nakamura at WrestleMania in a big match, whether it's for the title or not, that would be the way to go. I think those two would bring the best out of each other. I think it's two big baby faces. I think it's a match they both want, and because of that, I think they would go out there and they would just give their best performance. I think you want a great match. There it is. It's being handed to you on a platter. AJ has said publicly, I've gone to Vince McMahon and I've told him I want the match with Nakamura. It's in Vince McMahon's hands. It's up to him. And I sure hope that, the fact that Nakamura didn't light the world on fire with Jinder didn't sour Vince McMahon on the guy. Because I do think that buried in there somewhere is a great performer who, we once saw in New Japan. And frankly, it goes both ways. I haven't really seen a whole lot out of him either recently. Then again, it's probably hard to get too excited when you're programmed to lose 2 times in a row to Jinder Mahal. I wouldn't be very excited about that either. Let's take one more phone call here, and then we'll move along. Let's see here. We have a caller from Bakersfield. Why don't we go to California? He's got a question, I believe, about war. Whoa, Colin from Bakersfield.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. You might also remember me as the Tinder guy.
Oh, the Tinder guy, yes. Thank you for sharing those very entertaining stories. It was only entertaining because we weren't part of them, so I'm sorry for all your troubles, but I thank you for sharing those stories. They're very entertaining.
Yeah, it's only gotten worse. But so, Mike, first of all, congratulations on 10 years.
Thank you.
I've been listening for, I want to say, close to like 5-6 years. So it's really been like a great thing to see you grow and all that. But my question is, it's a scenario for War Games that I'm curious as to what you thought of. So they announced that Adam Cole is facing Drew McIntyre for the NXT title the day before War Games.
You're fading out
okay.
there. Oh, there you go. We got you back.
Like, big news, blah, blah, blah. But what if they did this? What if Adam Cole actually beats Drew McIntyre the night before and wins the NXT title? And Regal comes on the pre-show before NXT TakeOver the next day and says, this is what we're going to do. Almas and McIntyre is just going to be a one-on-one match, just, for shits and giggles. And then the War Games match becomes a winner-take-all. Now, hopefully Nikki Cross would win the Fatal 4-Way for the NXT Women's title, and then you have Sanity put their tag team belts on the line, Adam Cole put his NXT title on the line, and then whichever team wins, the winner takes all. And so, in my mind, I would have Sanity win that.
All right, you're fading out, Colin. I'm gonna have to let you go. I'm gonna have to let you go there, but I got the crux of your question. I wouldn't mind that. And again, it goes to the whole thing of when you have a live event that's not televised, when big things happen on those live shows, it gets people excited and it gets people thinking, hey, the next time they come to my town, maybe I ought to go to that show because you never know what might happen. I think it would make things a little confusing, honestly, to people to do all of that at the last minute. But like you said, you could just make it a winner-take-all situation, being that you've got the tag champs and the the Undisputed Era. They're all in the same War Games match. It would make the match a little more exciting. So yeah, I wouldn't mind. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't think it's going to happen. And remember, Shawn Michaels is the guest referee for that match, and Shawn is a babyface, and I don't know that they want him, counting the the winning fall for the heels. In fact, the way I see that going is probably a clean win for Drew with a super kick to Adam Cole at the end of the match. That's pretty much the way I think it's going to go. But I wouldn't hate the other idea if they were to go in that direction. All right, so let's keep things moving along here as we proceed. Here on the 10-year anniversary special for the Sound Off, we have a few more PayPal shout-outs to get out of the way. The Brooklyn Bombers, Jamel and Isaiah Walker, thank you for your support of the show. Kind of a big deal, Corey Blake, Bobby the Wizard Waldrop, Davis the Empire Enos, the Malaysian Mastermind Samuel T, Devastation David Uragas, the Pittsburgh Pitbull Robert Ibeck, First Class LT Gilberry, $1 Million Matthew Yanez, the Columbus Destroyer John Sterniker, Nick Going Slightly Mad Heinrich, Gabriel the San Diego Beer Snob Solus, Nishan Ozzy Osbourne Vicious Vincent Cooper, Matthew the Sentinel Setzer, the Sydney Brawler Ben Hobson, the Demon Temptress Samantha Krasinski, the Chicago Screamer Ian Noel Camelotes, the Buckeye Brawler Jake Beard, it's a little surprise from Danielle, the Queen City Saint Pablo Publicimo, the one and only Ocampo, happy belated birthday, and shout out to his NBA 2K18 team, Naughty Intentions. Always remember to square up, and that's right. I don't know what that means, but there you go. Monday Night Raw last week was live from Baltimore, Maryland. 2,000 people voted in the poll, and would you look at this? Right down the middle, 50-50, just like WWE's booking. Roman Reigns, nowhere to be found. He is still not medically cleared to return. Dave Meltzer says that the plan is for him to come back next Monday. That's the November 13th episode of Raw, which would be the go-home show for Survivor Series. So for those of you saying a silent prayer that Roman Reigns will be out of Survivor Series, you will not be so lucky. This was a show on Monday that featured the return of just a return that absolutely nobody asked for. The return of Stephanie McMahon to Monday Night Raw. I came this close to just turning my TV off. It's been nice. It's been nice and quiet for months now, right? And Raw's not a perfect show, but Raw is by far a better show without her around. Kurt Angle shows up every week. He makes about a zillion phone calls backstage. I don't know who the fuck this guy is calling, but there he is on his cell phone every week. He awkwardly stares at his phone in other segments, looking at text messages, and whatever, it's fine. Doesn't offend me, doesn't bother me. And on her very first night back, what does this woman do? She does what she always does. They have her berate people. Kurt Angle was no exception. She held him responsible for Shane McMahon leading an invasion of SmackDown the week before and made him the team captain at Survivor Series. His job is on the line, she said. So those new tights that Kurt Angle, remember that was a Twitter post or Instagram post a couple of weeks ago, showing him with a, what do you call those people that make the seamstress, right? Making him new tights, red, white, and blue tights. Apparently those tights are going to be used a lot sooner than WrestleMania. I dig Angle as the team captain, with Shane as the opposing captain, as he will be, even though Shane nearly died in last year's Survivor Series match. But Stephanie is just absolute poison on my TV. Just absolute rat poison on my television. I hope they keep her segments to a minimum. I get the whole Shane versus Stephanie thing. That was how this whole brand split started. Remember Vince McMahon on TV? I want you to just slit each other's throats. I don't care if you gotta break the law. You know, that whole thing, which was sort of forgotten about. Like, I get it. That's the story they told, and she has to be there. But please, for the love of God, please keep this woman's segments to a minimum. Nia Jax is back. So much for her talking to The Rock and walking out, eh? I'm starting to wonder about Sports Illustrated. I never really bought that story to begin with, which is why you didn't hear me talk about it here on the show last week. But she was back, and she pinned Bayley. And she will be on the Raw women's team at Survivor Series, which, of course, is captained by the lunatic herself, not Sasha Banks. Sasha may be a lunatic, but I'm talking about Alicia Fox. Now, as Nia left, Samoa Joe randomly returned and walked down to the ring. Kind of an odd moment for him to make his comeback, but there he was. Fans popped huge for him, but he healed on them pretty quick, made it very clear that he did not want their support. He beat Apollo Crews, then put Titus in the choke after the match for good measure. A nice, dominant return for Samoa Joe. Now just get him on Team Raw at Survivor Series. Miz and Matt Hardy had an Intercontinental Championship match. This match was better than I thought it would be. People wanted Matt to win. They really were into this. They were into this a lot more than I thought they would be. But it was not to be. Skull-crushing finale for the finish. They had Asuka make short work of a jobber. Where have I heard that one before? If only they had done that from the start and then built to her first pay-per-view match. But beggars can't be choosers. Better late than never, I suppose. Just as I said last week, like picking wings off a fly. That's what they should have her doing. Even if it turns her heel. If she keeps beating people like this and people start booing her for it, that's fine. That's fine. And then at some point you have one of the babyfaces step up to her and stop her from just completely demolishing one of these nameless women. That's fine. I'd prefer Asuka to show more of those heelish tendencies that she started showing in NXT before she got called up. It's like she was kind of already a heel, and then she left, so she had this big send-off, and she was crying, and it was like she was a babyface again. I want heel Asuka back. I hope that's what they're building to. One of the more ridiculous things on this show was Kurt Angle backstage getting all freaked out at the sight of Daniel Bryan standing in his office, to the point where he started frantically alerting security over what I think was a walkie-talkie that they were under attack. Like he was one of the kids from Stranger Things who just spotted a Demogorgon. Imagine being that scared of Daniel Bryan, of all people, standing there in his flannel shirt. Or flannel-looking shirt, whatever the fuck it was. Bryan said he came alone and he wanted to apologize to Kurt for Shane's actions. Kurt gave him a message to deliver to Shane that he was taking him out at Survivor Series. So they come back to this later, and Bryan is all alone. He's standing in Kurt Angle's office. Kurt is long gone. Bryan's on the phone. All of a sudden, the room goes dark, and the door is locked. He can't get out. Suddenly, his old tag team partner, Kane, shows up. You know, the same Kane who was on the SmackDown roster up until a few weeks ago when all of a sudden he wasn't. He grabbed Bryan by the throat. Bryan dropped his phone. I hope he had an OtterBox on that thing. We heard a loud noise, which I guess we were supposed to think was Kane giving him a chokeslam, but we couldn't see it because Bryan is not cleared to take bumps. That's how extreme they've taken this. They won't even show you the visual of this guy possibly taking a bump on TV. I was going to make the dark match joke here at this point, but everybody else already beat me to it, so fuck all of you. Finn Balor, hot off a loss to Kane the week before, beat Cesaro, only for Kane to come out. He fought off Balor, laid him out with a chokeslam on the stage. Oh, actually a tombstone. What am I saying? He chokeslammed him the week before. This was a tombstone on the stage. I mean, what can I say? You know, like, what do you say at this point? You just wait for the demon, I guess, to emerge and just hope that people have short memories. That's sort of the story of WWE's booking over the last 10 years, isn't it? Hoping that everybody has short memories. I can't tell you how many of those Men in Black memes I've seen of them holding up that device to wipe people's memory clean. How many times have you seen that over the years, making jokes about WWE booking? So Kane's dominance continued into the next match, where he pinned Seth Rollins with a chokeslam. After the match, he laid out Rollins and Dean Ambrose with tombstones, although he did get an assist from Sheamus and Cesaro. So there it is, Kane killing dudes like it's 1997. We had Heath Slater and Rhino, dressed in drag for his Halloween costume. He was Mrs. Claus, since Heath Slater was Santa Slater. They beat Anderson and Gallows in the now annual Trick or Street Fight match. To show you how far Anderson and Gallows have come since last year, they were involved in this very same match on last year's Halloween show. This was an embarrassment. And nobody likes fun more than me. I don't want to hear from people saying, oh, you're taking it too seriously. It's all in good fun. It was just for Halloween. Fuck that. A year ago, these guys were involved in the same match, and here they are again. And if that isn't their career here in WWE in a nutshell, then I don't know what is. Anderson put a pumpkin over his own head, surely to try and hide his shame. But when he dove off the ropes, Rhino caught him and gave him a spinebuster through a table for the win. I don't think it's possible for these two to sink any lower, so why not just let them play their Southpaw regional wrestling characters on TV? We ought to start a petition about that. How come nobody ever starts a petition about something worthwhile? They always start a petition over shit. They may as well play those characters at this point. They'd be more over than they are now. Chad Too Bad and Tex Ferguson over there. I wouldn't mind seeing that. The main event on this show was a rematch for the Raw Women's Championship, Alexa Bliss defending against Mickie James. Alexa won with a punch to the face. Yes, perhaps William Regal has passed on his power of the punch because Mickie sold this like she was shot, and Alexa got the pin. This was not good. This was not good. So the show ended with Miz and his Miztourage leaving the arena, running scared after somebody left a bag of garbage in their dressing room. From this, they deduced that Braun Strowman must be near, since when we last saw him, he was being compacted in a garbage truck. So therefore, this bag of garbage here on the floor means that Braun Strowman is near. They would fit in nicely on Law and Order, this crew over here. They get in a limo, or a town car, or some such vehicle. There's a camera inside, which is always an ominous sign. The car stops because there is a garbage truck in the way. Now, here's what I don't understand. This is one of those little stupid things, I know, but, they're putting two and two together. They're solving crimes like they're friggin', some gumshoe looking for Carmen Sandiego or something, right? When they're in the back, they see garbage. Oh my God, Braun Strowman, that must mean he's near. They get in this car and they see a garbage truck blocking their way. Nobody makes mention of the fact that, hey, Braun Strowman might be in there. Oh my God, it's a garbage truck. They're all like, what is this guy doing? Get out of our way. Move, move. Nobody actually puts two and two together. It's like they got dumber once they set foot in the car. So that was stupid. So they proceed to show the back of the garbage truck opening up and emerging from the truck in a way that mirrored the first time we see Arnold Schwarzenegger's character in the original Terminator. There is Braun Strowman. A few questions, though, need to be answered here. For instance, how did Braun Strowman survive all of that time in the back of the garbage truck? How did he go from a white garbage truck at TLC to a red one here on this show? And did that truck not transport trash to the local landfill in Minneapolis? Did it drive all the way to Baltimore with all the garbage inside? Of course, these questions don't matter. They shot this like something that was inspired by Halloween. It was clearly shot like a horror film. I happen to like horror films, so I liked it, cheesy as it was. Strowman chased Miz and his cronies back out into the arena. He bounced them all over the place like rubber balls. Strowman gave Axel a running power slam. The crowd chanted one more time, so he obliged. He proceeded to give him two more for a total of 4. Booker T miscounted and said it was 5, which is odd for a man who made a career of counting to 5 on his hand, being a 5-time WCW champion and all, so that was weird. Then he picked up Curtis Axel, walked all the way over to the announce desk with him, and he power slammed him through the table. So babyface turn confirmed, and now he goes for his revenge on Kane. I don't know if they do a singles match on TV this week, if they save it for the pay-per-view, because the pay-per-view is Raw versus SmackDown, so it really wouldn't make sense to do it there. Maybe they end up being both on Team Raw at Survivor Series, right? Wouldn't be the first time we've seen hateful partners. I'm not sure. My guess would be, if I had to take a guess, they're going to do it on TV, but we'll find out soon. One more thing I wanted to mention here. It kind of ties into Raw. I didn't really have anything specific on the show to tie it into, but 205 Live, right? That's excuse me, that's a Raw thing, so I'll mention it here. Rockstar Spud from TNA was released by Impact. This came out only in the last week or so. The news did that he was recently released, which I found to be very surprising. I mean, I looked at him and I don't know if I figured he'd be a lifer in that company, but he'd been there for so long, and he was I thought he was entertaining. He's a very versatile performer. Not a very big guy, so I guess there's only so much you can do with him, but he was released, and the rumor now, per PW Insider, is that he has interest from WWE, and they may have interest in him for 205 Live. The other person who may be making his 205 Live debut soon enough is Hideo Itami. Now, I've been asked about Hideo Itami in the past, many, many, many months ago. What would you do with him? You know, he's been ravaged with injuries, and the guy has had just bad luck after bad luck. And I once made the suggestion that as much as I don't think 205 Live is a place I would send somebody who I have high hopes for, I suggested that 205 Live may be the best place for him. Because the way I see it, Hideo Itami, his two best options are just take the 205 Live gig, just so he can get up to TV and then make the most of it. Maybe he impresses people, maybe eventually he breaks out of it. or just go back to Japan, because I don't really see there being anything else for him. I think his time has passed. I think that injury that he suffered when it seemed like he was going to take the championship in NXT from Kevin Owens on that Beast in the East special, and that's going back now almost 2.5 years. That injury really put the nail in the coffin of his career, I think, in NXT, because he was out for a very long time. There were complications. It delayed his return even more. Then he came back, and he had his nose broken. He almost had his neck broken, I think, in a match on a house show by Riddick Moss. He was out for a little while longer. This guy has had just nonstop bad luck. And sometimes when that door closes, it doesn't open back up. I don't see there being a good spot for him right now on the main roster. Well, if he doesn't go to the main roster, what the hell do you do with this guy in NXT? I don't know. I don't see there being a good spot for him. So I actually think going back to Japan is probably his best bet. But if not, if they offer him, hey, we're going to bring you up to 205 Live, well, hey, if that's what he wants to do and the money is good, then go for it. But I don't really see there being any other good role for him. So great, send him to 205 Live and, let him kick the shit out of Enzo Amore, and maybe he'll get over that way. But I don't know what else you do with the guy. Speaking of Impact, they have their Bound for Glory pay-per-view going on literally as I speak. So I thank all of you for joining me. I'm sure it was a very tough call to make, whether you watch Bound for Glory or listen to this show. So I thank you. If somebody in the chat can tell me, do they have any referees for the matches so far? I'm not sure they have any left. Earl Hebner and his son Brian are gone from the company, as is Brian Stifler, who will forever be remembered for the most hilarious botch in wrestling history, the apparent seizure he had when he sold a phantom kick to the face in a pay-per-view match once. Earl had been with the company since 2006, which was the year after WWE fired him. Stifler had been with TNA for something like 13 years. I mean, he had been there virtually his entire career. But this is a company that's just cutting costs left and right. We've been hearing stories nonstop every day. People leaving, people being fired. So I guess now the plan going forward is to just use local referees. That's the plan for Impact. I actually am very curious. I'm checking the chat right now to see if anybody has answered my question. Somebody said, that's crazy. The Hebners are gone. I think the fans are refereeing the matches. You know what? At this point, it wouldn't shock me if the fans were refereeing the matches, as sad as that is. But in any event, some more PayPal shout-out, shall we, before we move on? Aim for the Head, Andrew Jorlog, thank you for your support. The Philly Fanatic, Caliph Kane. The Lady Killer, Chris Osorio. The Houston Hangman, George Perez. The Asian Sensation, Justin Lowe. $1 Trillion Trevor Katende. Jaws of Life, Jim Dawson. Josh Bad Medicine Medina. Road Warrior, Reginald Smith. Ticking Time Bomb, Nick Thomas. Pass Me a Pint, Powrick Gallagher. Clayton, Creepy Uncle Von Kockenstein. Now, I'm guessing that's a troll name, but now you got me to say it. I'll say it again. Clayton, Creepy Uncle Van Kockenstein. There you go. John, More Money, More Problems, Morin. The Captain of Carnage, Christopher Gomez. The Maple Madman, James Howley. Stephen Foulmouth Fowler. Retro Ryan Sorensen. The Anarchist. I almost said the Antichrist. The Anarchist, Andrew Heller, Buffalo Bash, Sean Fenton, Warlock Wyatt Rogers, Jonathan Badass Barter, Arrogant Andrew Smelzer, and Thomas Galloway. And last but not least, Insane Brandon Lane, who hosts a monthly film commentary podcast called Rants from the Black Lodge, where he and a guest discuss horror films and B-movies. rantsfromtheblackLodge.buzzsprout.com. Let's talk about SmackDown Live here. SmackDown Live from Norfolk, Virginia. Over 1,700 votes, 55% thumbs up, 45% thumbs down. After what happened to Daniel Bryan on Raw, Shane McMahon announced that he would be the team captain for SmackDown at Survivor Series. I'm actually looking forward to seeing Shane and Angle mixing it up for the first time since 2001. I was, a big fan of that match they had at the King of the Ring. I certainly hope that they don't have any crazy bumps in this thing like they did back at the King of the Ring. But for nostalgia purposes, if nothing else, to see the two of them in the ring together going at it, I think should be fun. Bobby Roode, or Bobby Roode, as people like to say, beat Dolph Ziggler in a 2 out of 3 falls match to earn a spot on Team SmackDown at Survivor Series. Ziggler won the first fall with a super kick. Roode won the second with a sunset flip after Ziggler hit the post on a slingshot, knocked himself silly. And Roode won the third and final fall with the glorious DDT. I maintain that my idea was much better. It would have been far more entertaining here on this Halloween show if they would have had a straight jacket match, Dolph loses. The guys in the white coats come out. They put him in a straitjacket, and the camera follows in one shot as they drag him to the, not paddy wagon, but the, the nut wagon or whatever you want to call it. I guess that would be like Bang Bus, but like the nut wagon outside, and they take him off to the mental asylum somewhere. That would have been more fun. Did I just say that? I think I did. Let's move on. WWE.com. I don't think I'm drinking enough here. We take another swig of this here. This is fun. WWE.com had an interview with Dolph Ziggler after the match. This is what he said. He said, "No matter how much I stepped up my game, it was not enough. It's not that I didn't have it. I had it tonight, but Bobby Roode is as good as he says he is. I said he is a catchphrase. I said he was an entrance. I said he was a kid. And as much as it used to mean a lot more beating me in the middle of the ring, the WWE Universe does not back me anymore. People behind the scenes never did to begin with. This has always been about me, and I could not deliver tonight. I went toe-to-toe with this kid who is going places, and he was not just an entrance. He was better than me. Clearly, I need to rethink this career." Well, he's got a year to think about it. That's supposedly the amount of time he has left on his contract. A lot of people thought that his contract was coming due, but he's got another 12 months to dwell on whether or not this is something he wants to be doing. You know, there's nothing left for him. That's it. He will never get to the heights that he wants to get to. And for a guy as driven as Dolph Ziggler, I'm sure it drives him up a fucking wall that he will never ever get to be in that spot that he wants to be in. But you know what? There's only so many spots to go around. You had your chance. You didn't get a fair shake? Hey, a lot of people don't get fair shakes, so throw it back in their face. That's what Cody Rhodes has done. Cody Rhodes was a mid-card guy in face paint on their roster. He was a joke. He didn't want to be a joke anymore. He wanted to go back to being Cody Rhodes. Vince McMahon had other ideas, so you know what Cody did? He basically said, "Up yours." And he left, and he worked indies all over the place, nonstop, kept himself busy every single weekend. And now look at him. Look at him now, doing the Bullet Club thing. He's wrestling on occasion in New Japan. He's the top star in Ring of Honor. You know, and he seems to be genuinely happy. You know, and he finally just signed an exclusive deal with ROH. He claims the most lucrative ROH deal in history. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's just part of the story or not, but I'm sure it was a lucrative enough deal. And the guy is happy. I can't see Dolph Ziggler being happy in the position that he's in. So when the time is right, leave. I think that's what he should have done the last time his contract came due, a couple of years ago. He chose to stay. Was it for the money? Was it because he has a lot of friends who work in the company? Was it because that's just what he's used to? I don't know. I'd love to be able to ask him one day. But whatever it was, you know, at some point you've just got to say, this just isn't fun anymore. And I'm not getting any younger, and if I still feel like I have a lot to contribute, then I'm going to go do it somewhere else. New Japan is expanding. Ring of Honor is doing pretty well right now. It's not like this guy doesn't have options. It's not like Dolph Ziggler, for a 6-month period on the indie scene, couldn't make a killing for himself. He could reinvent himself the way that somebody like a Cody Rhodes did. Now, for every Cody Rhodes, there's a Ryback or a Jack Swagger who leave WWE and then haven't really done a whole hell of a lot. I'm sure they're getting steady work, but it's not like you really hear too much about them. You know, Dolph, I feel like Dolph would be closer to a Cody than he would be a Ryback or somebody like that. Dolph could probably go out there and have killer matches. So, you know, when the chance comes next time, hopefully he won't whiff. Hopefully he'll make the move, because I don't see anything left for him to do in WWE. Nothing. For Halloween, the New Day was dressed up as Jimmy Hart, played by Xavier Woods. Brother Love, played by Kofi Kingston. Red makeup and all. He looked weird. He looked like fucking, Black Hellboy here on the show. And the African Dream, Akeem, played by Big E. They ran into Rusev and Aiden English backstage, and Rusev snatched their Halloween candy away and admonished them. You like that word, huh? Admonished. He said, "What are you doing? These kids could be spies from Raw." I laughed. He said he thinks Halloween is a dumb holiday. He said there's only one day that matters now, and that's Rusev Day. And I say hear, hear. He proceeded to stomp all over the candy. Rusev is a national treasure. And he's not even from this country. That's what's so amazing about it. Rusev did beat Big E later in the show, and outside the ring, he wasn't mic'd up or anything, so I don't know how many people picked up on it, but you could hear him say, "No more Halloween, no more Christmas, only Rusev Day." Push this man. for God's sakes. What are they waiting for? You can push Jinder. You can push him off a cliff. But push Rusev, for God's sakes. Enough already. Speaking of Jinder, he was out there for AJ Styles against Samir Singh. AJ beat him with the Styles Clash. He was immediately attacked by Jinder. He hit the Kalash. AJ sold the shit out of that move. The most devastating that move has looked since he started using it. And as a result of this heinous attack, it will now be AJ Styles challenging Jinder Mahal for the WWE title on SmackDown Live this Tuesday. Now, I was going to wait until later in the show. I got about half a dozen mailbag questions queued up here. But we may as well do this one now, since I'm covering this now. And this is a mailbag question that comes to us from LeBrian in El Paso, Texas. And it concerns the AJ Styles Jinder Mahal match coming up on SmackDown this week. It says, I heard AJ Styles is facing Jinder Mahal on SmackDown this week. Do you think WWE will let AJ win so he can face Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series? That would definitely bring more juice to the card. I would argue that keeping Jinder in the match would add more juice. Would add more juice to the card no matter what. I wish they would pull the plug on Jinder and his run, but they won't. Somebody is interfering. But as far as adding juice, I mean, you know, your definition of juice may be very different than mine. As long as he's in the match, believe me, there'll be plenty of juice. But my prediction for this match is that we're going to get either one of two things. We're either going to get a Brock Lesnar run-in, because we have yet to see anybody from Raw, quote-unquote, invade SmackDown. Who bigger to invade SmackDown, I guess other than The Shield collectively, but who bigger than Brock Lesnar to do a run-in and give Jinder or whoever an F5 in that match? So you have a Raw guy show up, number one. Number two, Jinder's been talking smack about Brock, so you would think that Brock wants to make sure this guy keeps the championship so that he can wrestle him at Survivor Series. That's why I could see Brock coming in and giving AJ an F5. Although I guess it doesn't matter. He can give Jinder. DQ is a DQ. He keeps the title no matter what. The other option here is that it's not Brock Lesnar who interferes, but it's Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn getting involved, just to screw things up for Shane McMahon, because both guys have been left out in the cold. They're not on the Survivor Series card. They failed to qualify for Team SmackDown against Team Raw at Survivor Series. So they got a whole lot of nothing going on right now. They got a lot of time on their hands. This is a big match coming up on Tuesday, and so why not get involved? Why not make a statement to Shane McMahon? So it's going to be one of those two things. But Brock Lesnar and AJ Styles as a match would be far more interesting to me than Lesnar and Mahal would. The only way I could see them taking the title off Jinder this Tuesday is if the guy is injured. And as I said earlier, there have been reports now that he's been wrestling with a shoulder injury for a while now. Now, if that injury has gotten worse, if it's just a case of he can't, continue to wrestle and they've got to take him out of the ring, then they have to take the title off him, then I can see that happening on Tuesday. Only if an injury necessitates it would they take that championship off this Tuesday. I can't see any other outcome to this match. I don't see them just putting the title on AJ. Not this week, not this Tuesday. So Lesnar or Owens and Zayn, but whoever it is, somebody is ruining that match. So there you go. That's my prediction here for what we see on SmackDown coming up this week. By the way, that Survivor Series poster that was floating around this week with John Cena listed as the special guest referee, it is legit. John Cena will, in fact, be the special referee for the Jinder Mahal Brock Lesnar championship match, or not championship match, but the match, the non-title match. How exciting! The non-title match between these two guys at Survivor Series. So if you are a John Cena fan, you are excited. If you are not a John Cena fan, you are probably also not a Jinder Mahal fan, which means that this is just not your pay-per-view. Jinder is actually part of Sad Tweet this week, although the tweet came from the official WWE account. It was not tweeted by Jinder himself. They were promoting the new No Mercy / Hell in a Cell double feature DVD, which they've been doing that a lot lately. They have double pay-per-views. They kind of double up on them here with these DVD releases. And so there was a tweet put out by the WWE account. You see it. You should see it there on your screen right now. There it is. Look at this shit. Let's look at this, would you? Relive the modern-day Maharaja's successful title defense against Shinsuke Nakamura at hashtag WWE No Mercy on DVD November 7th. This is just a fail on every level. First of all, No Mercy was a Raw pay-per-view, so they could not even get the name of the show right. But if I was actively trying to get people not to buy this DVD, this is the tweet that I would send. Who in their right mind would buy this DVD to see Jinder Mahal cheat to retain his championship? Is that supposed to be a selling point? I don't know what they were thinking. Forget the incorrect hashtag. I don't know what they were thinking at all with this tweet. Doesn't make any sense to me. Not if you want people to actually buy this thing. I guarantee you they won't. You want to see how to do social media, okay? Look no further than Rusev, the winner of this week's Social Media Savagery Award. He wasn't beefing with anybody. There wasn't any sort of war of words that he was involved in or anything like that. But I'm giving it to Rusev because how could I give it to anybody else after this? Okay, look at this Instagram post. Rusev, so they're promoting Total Divas, which obviously the two of them are on, and Rusev put a picture up of him at home in bed with, well, it's not that kind of photo, but they're sitting in bed with Lana. By the way, Rusev, clearly winning at life. And he puts in the message here for those who are maybe listening on the download and can't see it. Watching Total Divas tonight with the wife at Lana, at the Lana WWE, hashtag goals. Just noticed the wife knees a bit bruised. Wonder why. And he puts some emojis here at the end. I swear, there's only one Rusev. There is only one Rusev. Here's a guy who just doesn't care. Like he said, hashtag goals, hashtag winning, hashtag Rusev Day, call it whatever you want. Rusev wins the Social Media Savagery Award here for this week. Speaking of Nakamura, who I just mentioned, he pinned Kevin Owens in the main event on SmackDown with the Kinshasa after Randy Orton's music distracted everybody. Orton came out of the crowd. He dumped Sami Zayn onto the announce desk. That was enough to distract Kevin Owens, who turned around into the Kinshasa. So Shinsuke will join Randy Orton and Shane McMahon on Team SmackDown at Survivor Series. As AJ Styles will, I'm sure, after he fails to win the WWE title on Tuesday. I'm sorry, guys, but I just don't see it. Look, I want him to win that championship more than anything. I want him, if he doesn't win it at WrestleMania, I want him to go into WrestleMania as the champion. But it's just been one disappointment after another. Do you really blame me for not having faith in them to do the right thing? Surely there isn't a single person listening to this or watching this right now who can blame me for feeling that way. I'm not falling for it. It's just not happening. Some more PayPal shout-outs. Eugene, Crazy Eyes Morgan, thank you for your donation and your continued support. Caleb Blackout Brinkman, Josh the Joker Rosenberg, Alex Stix Cardozo Solis, Ludacris Lee Swayze, Jonathan Killjoy Keene, Jose the Hustler Toribio, Final Boss Brian Dudley, the Swashbuckler Stephen Rangel, Slam Jam Jarrett Johnson, Heart Attack John Fries, Victor Brown of The Victor Brown Show, who turns 37 this Tuesday. Happy birthday to Victor. Fantastic 15, Antonio Del Valle. Shout out to his amazing daughter, Alyssa, who turned 12 years old this past week. Happy birthday, Alyssa. She is a second-degree black belt in Taekwondo. It is depressing to think that I could be beaten up by a 12-year-old, but such is my life. Tyler the Boss Williams, who we heard from earlier tonight. You can check out his YouTube channel featuring wrestling and gaming content and more, youtube.com/Tyler Williams. And last but not least, Sean Duran and the Zesty Italian, Rob Aricchio. They run a creator wrestler role-playing eFed called Original or Global, boy, I'm all over the place tonight, Global Championship Wrestling, where for free you can create your own wrestler and join a roster over 40 strong. That might be a bigger roster than Impact has. You get to write promos and develop your own superstar along the way. Find them on Twitter at GC Wrestling and online at s15.zetaboards.com/GC Wrestling. Take another quick look at what's going on in the chat here. We got over 1,500 people listening live. I want to thank everybody who has taken the time to do so. We have a lot of international people who are listening right now in the UK, who are listening in parts of the world where it's 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. You guys are just absolute beasts. You won't stay up for Raw, but you'll stay up for this show. Not that I blame you. I think you're making the right decision, but just know that I appreciate the hell out of every single one of you as we move along here to NXT. Unfortunately, we have a release to talk about here, coming off of the releases for Emma and Summer Rae and Darren Young. Sawyer Fulton was released this past week, one of the original members of Sanity. He got hurt last year. Now, I feel bad for the guy, I really do. Now, I can't say that I had any sort of attachment. I was looking forward to his return. I don't know a whole lot about him. There wasn't anything to me that's overly impressive. He looks a little weird. He's got kind of like a long, if I remember, he's got like a really long neck, like a giraffe, if I remember correctly. He's got a unique look to him. But he never really did anything. He's been down there for so long, and all of a sudden, Sanity. He finds a role in Sanity. It's him and Alexander Wolf, and this guy's finally going to get a push, and then he gets hurt. And he has to leave. And this was around the time that Big Damo had come in, and they rechristened him Killian Dane. And I can remember the episode where Eric Young literally took Sawyer Fulton's jacket and threw it in the aisleway. And then they eventually introduced Killian Dane as his replacement. And now there's no spot for the guy. You know, it's a classic case of, don't get hurt. And if you do, don't tell anybody, because if you do, you may lose your spot, and that's exactly what happened to him. But to his credit, he's keeping a positive outlook on things. He put a statement out. He said, I will be back in WWE one day. So he's got a lot of confidence in himself, and I hope he does. I hope he makes it back one day, because it's, it happens, but he got a bum rap. What are you going to do? Let's see. What do you need to know from this week's NXT? Let's boil it down here so we can get to more of your phone calls. You need to go out of your way to see Johnny Gargano against Fabian Aichner. That's what you need to do. Those two had a great match. Aichner was in the Cruiserweight Classic, which is still incredible to me that this guy made the 205 weight limit. He doesn't look much different now, but he's clearly no Cruiserweight anymore, even though he moves around like one. He's very impressive. He went for a moonsault, but he missed. Gargano went for the Gargano escape. Aha! See, I finally figured it out. The Gargano escape. I don't know why the announcers never point that out. Now that I see it that way, it's very obvious to me. But believe me, there are a lot of people out there who would not make that connection. So he went for it, went to turn it into an abdominal stretch, but Fabian turned it into a pinning combination for the shock pin. So Fabian Aichner gets the win. Johnny Gargano, it just feels like Gargano is just treading water until Tommaso Ciampa is ready to come back, which won't be for several more months. So for now, we have Johnny Gargano probably just having great matches on TV, which is okay in my book. No complaints out of me. Sanity and the Authors of Pain went to a no contest in their NXT Tag Team title match. AOP hit the last chapter on Eric Young. But the Undisputed Era ran out to break up the pin and ruin the match. Huge brawl broke out until Roderick Strong came down. He teased joining Cole Fish and O'Reilly. He even put the armband on that Cole had given him the week before. But it was all just a ruse, and he attacked them. They beat him down. AOP came to his rescue, which led to the big announcement. William Regal came out, and he said that there will be a three-way match with these three teams, that being Sanity, the Undisputed Era, and the Authors of Pain with Roderick Strong, and it will be a War Games match at TakeOver Houston. And we now know the rules that WWE will be using for their version of the War Games match. It goes a little something like this. There will be 2 rings surrounded by 1 large cage, which, okay, right? So far, so good. All 3 teams will be contained inside separate shark cages. Separate shark cages by the entrance. Boy, they sure do love their shark cages, don't they? Don't they? I think WWE should adopt an official mascot. Call him, whatever, Sandy the Shark or something. And that way they can keep him locked in there all the time and just show off their fancy shark cage and sell toys. So while they're in there, 1 member from each team will actually begin the War Games match. After 5 minutes go by, the remaining members from 1 team will be released from their shark cage and allowed to enter the match. After another 3-minute period, the remaining members from a second team are to be released from their shark cage. And another 3-minute period goes by. The final team, their members will be released from their shark cage. Only after all 3 teams have fully entered the War Games match can a victory be attained by way of pinfall or submission. So, a little bit different than what we're used to if you remember those old War Games matches in WCW. We also don't know if there's going to be a coin toss each time to determine which team gets out of their shark cage, or if it's completely random the way that the Elimination Chamber pods sort of randomly open up. We don't know that yet. But those are the rules for War Games, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to War Games. I'm looking forward all of a sudden to Wrestle Kingdom. Survivor Series is another story. WWE has some work to do to get me interested in Survivor Series. Although I will say, the way that Team Raw versus Team SmackDown match is shaping up, if we do get a team of Shane and AJ and Bobby Roode and Nakamura against Kurt Angle and The Shield and whoever else, I will say I think that's going to be a pretty badass match. I guess Randy Orton also is on Team SmackDown, so I am sort of looking forward to that match. The rest of the card, though, not so much. Why don't we do this? I want to take a very quick break so I could refill my drink here, and then we can come back, and we got a lot left to do here, man. We got more phone calls. We got people waiting in queue to get on the air. You never know who may call in. We're going to get to your calls. We have more emails to get to. A lot of good stuff left here, yet to come here on the Sound Off. So again, quick 2-minute break. And when we come back, we are going to continue. This is the 10-year anniversary episode of the Solomonster Sounds Off. back. This is the 10-year anniversary Sound Off special. 10 years of the Sound Off, and we have a lot of people currently hanging out with us on YouTube. Again, for those of you who are listening live, this will be available as an audio download on our feed. That includes iTunes and Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and I think we're still on Google Play. Perhaps some people can let me know in the chat if we are, in fact, still on Google Play. I've heard from a few people who said we aren't. I don't know why we would not be. So I certainly hope that that is not the case, that we are still on there. But again, thank you to everybody who is tuning in right now. We have mailbag questions, we have phone calls that we're going to get to, and a whole lot of good stuff here. I'm just trying to get myself situated here as we move along. And of course, we have more shout-outs, so those of you who have made donations, please don't worry. I promise you we will get to all of you who did donate and contribute so that you can have your name immortalized here on the 10-year anniversary show. Let's go to the phone lines, see who we have waiting in queue. I believe we have a very special caller here. And let's go to him right now. Could this be Loose Cannon from Sacramento?
Hey, Solomonster, happy 10-year anniversary. Yes, it's yours truly, the Loose Cannon.
John Loose Cannon Lopez. If you've listened to my show for any length of time, you guys know that he's one of my biggest supporters. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, this guy, he makes donations, he buys the shirts. I'm sure he's probably used our Audible link, all that good stuff. And he listens loyally every single week, and in all seriousness, I can't tell you how much that means to me. So I'm so happy that you were able to call in here on the 10-year show.
My pleasure, though. With a tear in my eye, this is the greatest moment of my life. Ric Flair 1992 Royal Rumble.
I love it. So do you have a question here for the 10-year show?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember back in 94, I've always heard Jerry Jarrett was supposed to run WWE if Vince McMahon, the worst-case scenario, went to jail for the whole steroid trial. I just want to know what's your thought on that, because the only thing I can think of it, probably we would have saw Jeff Jarrett, his son, be WWE champion during that whole time.
Yeah, so that was a true story. Jerry Jarrett was brought in, and to my understanding, the main reason that he was brought in was in the event that Vince was found guilty. During the steroid trial, they wanted to make sure that WWE was well taken care of, and they had somebody who can run the show. And I don't know if Vince would have called the shots from prison or wherever they were going to send him to, but that was the role that Jerry Jarrett was going to have. They really thought that, hey, there was a chance that Vince McMahon may be going away for a very long time, and thankfully it didn't come to that. How things would have shaken out with Jerry Jarrett in charge. Jerry Jarrett was a very successful promoter back in his day. Far be it from me to say he would have flopped and, fallen on his face. But he was a very successful promoter from a regional point of view. Could Jerry Jarrett have successfully run a promotion globally the way that Vince McMahon did, nationally the way that Vince McMahon did in places like New York and LA and Boston and Chicago? We'll never know. He never had the chance to do so. I have my doubts about that. I don't know that would have, his booking of like the USWA and all that. I don't know how that would have worked on a national stage. But that was the role that he was brought in for, and thankfully they never had to find out. Let's go back to the lines here. We have another very special caller calling in. I don't know who it is, but caller, you are on the line.
I just want to say congratulations on your 10 years, and it's Mama Monster.
Oh, look at this. I thought that voice sounded familiar. It is Mama Monster. Back here. Now, this is appropriate because Mama Monster called in for episode 500 back in June, and I was hoping that we would be able to get her to come on here on the 10-year anniversary show, and here you are. So why don't you let everybody know how you're feeling, how you're doing? People ask about you all the time.
Well, I'm very flattered that they do, and thank you very much for your concern. And I'm doing okay. I'm responding to treatment that I'm going through. A lot of problems with it, side effects and stuff, but I'm trying to, muddle through it and get through it, and one day at a time, I guess.
Well, you're a trooper, and everybody. Well, come on, you are, and everybody. I've been giving people updates, over time about how you're doing and everything that you've been through. So I think most people listening are probably pretty well aware of everything that's been going on. And like I said, I get messages, send my best to Mama Monster. I'm thinking about her. I got her in my prayers, all this stuff. And it's really cool. And so it's a genuinely happy feeling for them when they get to hear your voice, which, by the way, they do get to hear your voice at the beginning of every single show, because you are now immortalized in the intro to the Solomonster Sounds Off. So they can hear your voice every single week.
Wow. That's a good thing. At least they get to hear me every week.
That's right, and they don't get.
Here I am.
Well, yeah.
Well, here I am live, and
more popular than I am.
I don't know about that.
Well,
but my popularity seems to be growing, and I'm quite flattered about that.
Yes. See, it's your newfound fame that you never would have expected here at the age of 31, but there it is. You have. You have a lot of popularity. Now people are wondering, wait a minute, mathematically, how is that possible? That's kind of illegal. But no. So thank you for calling in. Anything else you'd like to say? Anything else you'd like to say? Well, I'm cutting you off here. Anything else? Anything else you'd like to say to the audience here before I do let you go?
Well, I just want to say congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work, and I'm sure you'll be going for quite a few years to come. And to everybody else out there, thank you very much for your well wishes and your prayers and everything else. And just keep it coming, because I need everything I can get on my side. Thank you so much.
She does, and she has a good partner here in yours truly here. We are going to do everything in our power to make sure that we have Mama Monster here on the 15-year anniversary show when we get to that point. And we are live on Sirius XM or wherever the hell we may be at that point. We'll make sure we get Mama Monster on here with us. So thank you for calling in. I really am happy you were able to get through.
Yeah, I'm happy too. And have a good show, and take care, and have a good night.
There you go. Mama Monster, everybody. Now she is immortalized here on the 500th show and the 10-year anniversary show. And I meant what I said before. It's very cool when I get messages from people who don't even necessarily, I share personal things on the show, but there are people who are relatively new listeners who don't know a whole lot about me. They just, listen to me talk about wrestling every week. I'll share some personal stories here and there and give updates on how she's doing, but people send these messages like, I got her, I'm thinking about her every day. Please tell her to stay strong and all this stuff. And it really helps, because unfortunately, there's been a lot more down days recently than up. So, when you hear stuff like that and you see stuff like that, like she said, keep it coming, because it is very, very helpful and very well appreciated. We have another very important caller on the line, a gentleman who goes by the name of Deadpool James Herrera. Is that you?
Yo, what up, Jason?
How are you?
Monster, right?
How are you, my friend?
At work. Again, just like the 500th episode.
That sucks.
But I actually have a couple of questions this time around.
Go for it.
For one, actually, I have a question regarding, in the past 5 years, if you were to undo one event from WWE, like in history, what would you actually change? Like a result, or it could be a direction in the past 5 years, going back from like 2012.
You mean as far as like a match outcome?
It could be a match outcome, could be a direction, could be a push, could be whatever you name it.
That's a good one. I'm gonna. Thank you, James. I'm gonna cheat a little bit here. I'm actually gonna go back to 2011. And you guys have heard me rant about this before, so this is not gonna sound new to a lot of you. But the whole CM Punk thing, they got lightning in a bottle with that guy back in 2011. The whole pipe bomb promo, the match with John Cena at Money in the Bank, winning the championship, going away for a while, and then to see, what they did. And by the way, thank you in the chat to Drowning Samurai, who just made a $50 super chat, although that is 50, I think, in the UK denomination, but nonetheless, thank you, wow, for the super chat. CM Punk, I would have handled that very differently than they did. especially him losing to Triple H. I know I sound like a broken record with this, but I still to this day don't understand the sense in that. I guess to them, Triple H, after the fact, would tell people in the company, "Oh, this kid's got it. He got to work with me and he hung with me. He's got it. He's got it. Of course he's got it. Everybody knew he had it. He didn't need him to wrestle you to know that. It's no wonder he didn't want to work with him at WrestleMania and he quit the company." So I remember pitching this idea that I thought was pretty good and would have been pretty exciting, which would have had Punk out longer. He came back too soon after that match with John Cena where he won the championship. And it would have kept him out a little bit longer, and it would have ended up with a turn, basically. Call it a double turn, call it whatever you want, with John Cena. And we know now that John Cena was at one point pegged for a heel turn, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that around that time in 2011, 2012, they would have turned him heel. That had been the plan at one point. That comes right from a writer who worked for WWE and helped pitch the idea before they realized that John Cena had a new clothing line from Kmart coming out, and Vince said, well, we can't turn him now, so it didn't happen. So it's not like it couldn't have happened, but the idea would have been that everything Punk had said was true, and John Cena would go heel. He'd almost become this corporate-type champion. He would fit the mold of what CM Punk said he was. And we would have Cena as the hated heel, which wouldn't have been a stretch since people hated his guts anyway. And we would have had Punk as the closest thing to a modern babyface, the likes of Steve Austin, that we've had. And they didn't do that. Unfortunately, they cooled off Punk, which was a shame. Which sounds weird, I know, because he was the champion for 434 days, but that doesn't mean they couldn't have handled things, better with him. If I had the power to go back and change one match outcome, one program, creative, things that they did, that would have been the one, because I think Punk would have given them somebody who you could look at and say, this is, the next big anti-authority, babyface figure. And then the sky's the limit. How far he would have gone would have been up to him. Would he have gotten to the heights of a Steve Austin? I don't know about that, but we really haven't had anybody come close in the last 15 years or over 15 years. It would have been cool to see them try to go all the way with Punk and see how far they can go with him, and they didn't do that, which is a shame. Let's go back to the phone lines here. Let's see who else we got waiting. We've had somebody on the line for a while. He's been waiting. So I want to go to Lance in Houston. Lance.
Yes, I was actually wanting to ask you something funny. It was inspired by U-Shoots. How big is Batista's dick?
A great question. Thank you, Lance. I appreciate that. Here on the 10-year anniversary show, how big is Batista's dick? That is a great question. My suggestion to you would be to direct that question to Batista, who happens to be on Twitter. Shout out, by the way, to Joe Cronin in the chat, dropping a super chat donation. Thank you very much. Should all check out Joe's show on YouTube. So yeah, ask Batista. He may tell you. I mean, look, if I had a big dick like everybody says Batista does, I wouldn't shut up about it. I would have a segment on this podcast dedicated to nothing more than telling people how big my dick was every week. So if it's as big as everybody says it is, then I'm sure he'll be the first to tell you. Let's go to let's see who else we got here. Chris. We got a caller here. Chris from Tennessee, I believe. Chris, you there?
I'm here, man.
Welcome to the 10-year anniversary show.
Thanks for having me, dude. Congratulations on 10 years.
Thank you very much.
I actually have a buy or sell, but also got a kind of a question. Does Vince really think Brock is going to sell for gender? He's got to be out of his fucking mind. Right?
Well, look,
come on.
I know. He writes the paychecks, so I think he'll do whatever they tell him to do. It's not like he's dropping the championship to him or anything. And I'll be honest with you, Jinder, one of the reasons I'm sure Jinder is getting this push in the first place is because of how he looks. Let's just be honest here. The guy looks like a freak. Vince likes that. Jinder's a big guy. I met him. He sort of towered over me. He's every bit of 6'5", 6'6". He's a big guy. Jacked to the gills. How he got that way, I don't know. But, he's a big dude. Maybe Brock looks at that and goes, finally, You know, I'm tired of facing all these guys who are smaller than me. I'm tired of facing fat guys. He probably felt that way about Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman towered over Brock. He probably loved it. Although, ironically, that was one of the worst Brock Lesnar matches we've had in a while. So maybe Brock's, got the Vince point of view, and he looks at Jinder and goes, finally, a guy who actually looks the part. I don't know. I can't get in his head. You know, is he going to sell for him? I don't see this match going very long. I don't think he's going to have time to sell for him, to be honest with you. I don't see this match going that long at all. John Cena's in there as the referee. It's going to be all smoke and mirrors. It's going to be all about Cena. What kind of referee is he going to be? Is he going to screw anybody over? I'm sure that's going to be the story of the match, or maybe somebody runs in. So, but I think Brock will do whatever Brock is told to do at the end of the day. We have Joseph from Silsbee, Texas.
Hey, Solomonster, how you doing, man? I want to say congrats on your 10-year anniversary, bro.
Thank you very much, Joseph. I appreciate it. Now, I see a note here on my screen, and I want to find out from you if this is true, that says you are Mark Henry's cousin.
Yes, I am. I really am. He knows my family very well. Even when my grandmother passed away, he even wanted to come to the funeral, but he couldn't make it because he had a show that day.
Oh, wow. But that's very cool, though. That's very cool that you have that connection.
So yeah. Also, man, one more thing I want to tell you, man, something underrated. Dude, you're really hilarious.
Well,
you are really hilarious.
I aim to entertain. Sometimes I make fun of myself if I have to. I don't really care. As long as people listen and they feel like after 2 hours or whatever it is, they didn't waste their time the way they probably feel when Raw's over, then I'm happy. That's all that matters to me.
I know, man. I feel like that every Monday. But my question for you is this. I remember a certain show you did, and you were talking about the year 1992, and you were describing who you thought your MVP might be between Ric Flair, Randy Savage, and Bret Hart. So my question is, the year 2000, who would you choose as your MVP? The Rock, Triple H, or Kurt Angle?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to let you go because we got to move on. I'm going to answer your question right now, but thank you for the call, Joseph. I really appreciate it. 2000. That is, in my opinion, curious if you guys in the chat would agree, but 2000 I thought was WWE's strongest year creatively. And that was a year where they were without Undertaker for half the year, and they were without Steve Austin for, probably a good 3/4 of the year. And it's some of their best work, I think. Rock and Triple H were the two people who really, by and large, carried that company on their backs for most of the year. And so it's hard to say, who's the MVP. Honestly, I got to go with Triple H. I think Triple H was at his best in 2000. I loved most of his matches. He sold me, and Mick Foley deserves a lot of credit for this. But that's when I officially became sold on Triple H as a main eventer in that company. It was early in the year 2000. It was after that street fight with Cactus Jack. They had the Hell in a Cell match, the matches with Rock. That's when I officially bought in on Triple H as a headliner and a world champion. And he had a lot of great matches that year, and not just with The Rock, but with other people as well. I could think of matches. Look, the match he had with Chris Jericho on Raw with the title change, the throwaway match he had with Taka Michinoku. There's so many memorable matches he had that year. And as the top heel in the company, again, there's the dynamic of babyface and heel. As the heel, here's a guy who had to bump around and sell for everybody, and everything he did that year, I felt, was A+. His promos could be repetitive. He wasn't always the most exciting promo guy. Rock hasn't beaten that department. But I got to go with Triple H. I think Triple H is the MVP. Oh, that's right. Somebody mentioned the Last Man Standing match he had with Jericho in July at Fully Loaded. Thank you. That's another one. So, yeah, I got to go with Triple H on that one. Let's go to another one of our VIPs, if I can get him on here. I'm trying to get this person on, and it's not cooperating. We'll try to go back to him in a second. Right now we have Shane from Milwaukee on the line. Shane?
Whoa.
How are you?
Multitasking. I've got you on speaker, listening to the podcast. I'm watching ROH on TV, and I'm just doing some research on Wikipedia of all websites.
Wow, you are. So you're listening to me. You're watching ROH, but there's a TNA pay-per-view going on right now live.
Yeah, and it's funny because obviously ROH tapes their TV shows like probably at least 2 or 3 weeks to wherever. And where it's syndicated on my local station, it's at least it probably aired last week technically.
Yeah. So what's your question?
But my question for you, Solomonster, is this, man. Obviously, in the spirit of the fact that you're celebrating your 10-year anniversary, 10 years ago was a whole lot different, obviously. A lot has changed. And with that being said, that kind of, there's a lot of change in terms of variety where wrestling fans can turn to. I want to kind of sort of ask how you kind of feel about where we're at today with all the options we had versus 10 years ago. In 2007, if I recall, the big three in the United States were WWE, TNA, for, better or worse, TNA was definitely in a better position 10 years ago than they are today. And Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor wasn't huge, but it was still pretty big on the independent circuit. It was still kind of the go-to place to get started and to hone your craft and to really showcase who you really are. But not to put ROH over any more than I have today. But today, I mean, here in 2017, we've got WWE still. We have Impact Wrestling. We have ROH. We now have New Japan Pro Wrestling, which is obviously it's been around for a long time. But man, like you said earlier in the show, they're making their expansion in the U.S. I mean, I've been digging them for the last 3 years. And on top of that, UK wrestling's blowing up. I like keeping an eye over there with what's happening. I mean, how do you feel about today versus 10 years ago?
Well, thank you for the question. It's interesting to look back on when I first started doing the show. And the fact that I started this podcast once I got to the news portion of this show here tonight, and the first two things I mentioned really were Chris Jericho, who's been working for WWE, obviously, for so many years, wrestling a match for New Japan at Wrestle Kingdom, and Triple H showing up at an ICW show. I mean, it's nuts to think of how far we've come since 10 years ago. I think it's cool. I mean, it's a weird... it's such a weird thing because there's a lot to just, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot to hate and just sort of be exasperated about when it comes to wrestling. And really WWE, let's be honest here. There's a lot of really good indie wrestling going on. There's like an indie wrestling boom, I feel like, going on right just here in Brooklyn. And I don't live in a part of Brooklyn, really, that's all that populated. I mean, I don't even have, I'm not within walking distance of a train, which, in New York or in Brooklyn is unheard of. And there's indie shows here left and right that just were not here even 5 years ago. So if it's like that here, I can imagine how it must be like in other parts of the country. And we're seeing more wrestlers leave WWE voluntarily so that they can go work indies or, build up a name for themselves. They'll have more fun that way and more freedom. That's something you never would have seen 10 years ago. Guys that are voluntarily walking out of WWE was like unheard of back then. And now guys seem like they're doing it left and right. You got Ring of Honor, which apparently is doing the best business that they've ever done. And they've been around since 2002. They're selling out shows. Now, granted, they're selling out shows with crowds of 1,000, 1,100, maybe 2,000. But that's, pretty damn good for them. You got New Japan expanding into the U.S., making their mark here in this country. And then Lucha Underground, which may or may not be around anymore, but there's just so much wrestling to go around that wasn't there. You have the network now. The network is something I would have killed for when I was a kid. Even when I was in my teens in the late 90s and wrestling was actually hot. If you told me I would have a 24/7 wrestling network, I would have dropped out of school. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't have done anything else. I would have locked myself in my room and I would have done nothing but watch wrestling all day. So we have all these things now that just, I think 10 years ago, if you would have put them down on paper for me, I would have said you're nuts. I think there's a lot to like, and I think there's a lot to be happy for. I mean, believe me, there's a lot of BS too, but you got to look for the good stuff. We got a VIP on the phone right now. Is this Cody?
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I probably should have qualified that because now there's going to be people thinking, "Oh my God, Cody! It's Cody Thomas. It's out of control, Cody Thomas, not the other Cody." I'm sorry.
Oh no, you good. You good.
So how are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm good. I'm just enjoying the show, and congratulations on your 10-year anniversary.
Thank you very much. What's your question?
Oh, yes. My question is a buy or sell. It's basically between the better storylines and the matches between for Stone Cold. What would you think will be his better rival? Bret Hart or The Rock?
Okay. Who would be his better rival overall, Bret Hart or The Rock? Oh, that's a good one. Thank you for the question. Bret Hart or The Rock as the better overall opponent for Stone Cold? I can't vote against The Rock. I mean, how can I say anybody other than The Rock? I mean, I think there's only one answer to that question. I don't think there wasn't enough. I don't know that there was enough there between him and Bret. I think they could have done more with, especially after Austin really hit it big and became champion. You know, if Bret was still around, maybe they could have feuded again. Maybe I'd feel differently about it, but you can't vote against Stone Cold and The Rock. Stone Cold and The Rock is just one of the all-time great entertaining feuds. I don't know that it could ever be matched, I'll be honest with you. I mean, they were polar opposites, two baby faces when they were baby faces. I guess Rock was a heel first, but they were as popular as anybody in wrestling, and they came along at the same time. Think how lucky Vince McMahon had to be to have two people like that. I mean, forget having one. He had two at the same time. He would kill to have one now, let alone two. And he had them both, and they played off each other so well. So to me, it's an easy question to answer. You got to go with The Rock. You got to go with The Rock and Stone Cold. I don't see how it could be anybody else. Let's go to Julian in San Antonio, Texas. Julian, how are you?
Hey, Solomonster, congrats on the 10 years.
Thank you.
I got a question, more of an opinion. As you know, San Antonio has an NXT house show coming up with Shawn Michaels as the special guest referee.
Yes.
And they're also having a Ring of Honor show the same night. Now, I already got my tickets for the Ring of Honor show, and they just announced about a week ago Kenny Omega is going to be there. And I was just wondering if you think I made the right decision of going to Ring of Honor, or should I have gone to NXT?
I think you made the right decision. I think going to Ring of Honor was probably the right way to go. I mean, it's cool that they're having that main event at the NXT show, but I don't even know what the rest of the card is. I just know that one match. The Ring of Honor show, I'm sure they're going to load it up. They know it's a war now that night, so they're going to load it up. They're going to do everything they can to put on the better show. I'm sure that you'll end up coming away from it thinking, I made the right call. I'm sure you're going to have fun no matter what, but I wouldn't sweat it. I think you made the right decision. We've had a few people who've been waiting a very long time, so I want to try to get to them next. First, we go to Garrett in West Virginia.
Hello, Solomonster. I'd like to congratulate you on your 10-year anniversary, considering this is a big milestone for myself as well, since it's been 10 years since I've been a pro wrestling fan as well.
Wow. All right. Very cool. Very cool. And by the way, people should know that Garrett has been waiting in queue for 60 minutes. So I felt compelled to go to him. And by the way, you can call in. We have some open slots from some drop calls here. So if you've been waiting all night to call in, by all means, now is the time to do so. 917-809-7297. So, Garrett, go ahead.
Yes, my question relates to when it comes to, heel versus heel. We obviously have, Austin versus Rock at X7, Shawn Michaels and Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. Being the best face versus face match in WWE history. What was the best heel versus heel match in WWE history? And by the way, you cannot use Jinder Mahal and Brock Lesnar as your answer. Sorry.
Well, don't worry about that. There's no chance in hell of that happening. So, best heel versus heel match. I don't know. I really don't. I have to think. It's not like we've had that many of them. As far as big match, I'm sure we've had them on TV here and there. But as far as a big match, heel versus heel on a pay-per-view or something, you know what? I got an answer for you. Just popped in my head. February of 1997, the finals of the European title tournament on Raw. Owen Hart against the British Bulldog. Off the top of my head, probably the best heel versus heel match I've ever seen, at least in WWE. Because at the time, both of them were heels. I'm pretty sure at the time, both of them were heels. So that's the first one that pops into my head. I'm trying to think of others. There's nothing else that's popping in my head now. I'm going to go with that one. I'm going to go with Owen and Bulldog from 97. So thank you for the call. We have another caller here who's been waiting in queue for almost an hour. So I have to get to him. And he's calling from another country. I believe he's calling from Mexico. Alex, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Alex, how are you?
Yes. I'm fine, thank you, sir. Congratulations on the 10th anniversary for the show.
Thank you very much. What is your question?
Okay. Yeah, my question is the following. Did you, when you were young, did you get in trouble with your brother, and what did Mama Monster do to you? I don't know, because you were wrestling around the house or something like that.
Okay. Well, thank you for the question. I appreciate the call. Did I ever do anything to my brother to get in trouble with Mama Monster when I was younger? I don't think we have enough time left in the show to really get into all the different things I did, the way I sort of tortured. I do, so for those who don't know, I have a younger brother. He's about 4.5 years younger than I am. Never been on the show, and I'm sure never will be. And, we did what brothers do. We fought. And as somebody who watched wrestling his whole life, my first natural native instinct was to put him in various wrestling holds. So many a time I was able to perfect my version of the sharpshooter. I was able to perfect my version of the chicken wing, or I guess now it would be the Oscar lock, and the figure 4 leg lock. And for the record, I was put in the figure 4 leg lock one time. That move hurts like a bitch. The best way I could describe it is you feel your ankles. It's literally bone on bone. It is painful. It is very... So after that, it was very easy for me to believe that the figure 4 leg lock was a legitimately painful hold. So, and as far as Mama Monster, yeah, she wasn't very happy about it, but what are you going to do? Such is life. Let's see here. We have... Let's take a few more calls, and then we'll get to your mailbag questions. Let's go to Glenn in Chicago.
Good morning, Solomonster. How are you?
Good morning, good evening, and good night. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am phenomenal. How's the date so far?
It is good. What is your question?
Well, I have a question, and you might have to take some time to think about it, but I'll ask you. Buy or sell on the better WrestleMania series. Don't include like the best paying or the highest selling, but include the promos to build up and the matches. The series of Taker versus Triple H, or the series of Rock versus Stone Cold.
Rock and Stone Cold. Again, pretty simple answer. I mean, I didn't even really have to think about that one. I mean, Rock and Triple H and Undertaker, had some good matches, but Rock and Austin, it's hard to top that, man. It's just hard to top that. WrestleMania 15, 17, 19. I may not be as hot on the 17 match as some of you are, but they were all, very good matches, and they had a lot of, good storytelling behind them. Looking back, the Austin heel turn, probably not the best move. I'm sure if they had that to take back, they would. But again, I can't bring myself to vote against Austin and Rock. I mean, I really don't see that as being a very difficult question. Let's do one more, and then I promise we'll get to some mailbag questions. Let's go to Minnesota on the line.
Solomonster, sounding off for a decade now.
I know, it's crazy, right? It's absolutely insane. I believe we have Bubba on the line.
Yes, sir. It is Fat Mac, actually. Fat Mac.
Well, thank you for calling in.
So, at the risk of sounding redundant, congratulations. I know everybody else has, but hey, it's amazing. It's awesome. I know you're really busy, so I'll get right to it. So my question to you is, do you think there's a chance that we will ever get that actual women's revolution that we were promised? I feel like it has failed horribly, and we're still getting multi-women matches, and they're not paying much attention to the female writing. But now we got girls like Mercedes Martinez, Bianca Belair, Kairi Sane, Candice LeRae, whom I love to death. They're coming up here with more to come. Do you think there's a chance we might do it, or is it just a case of too stocked of a locker room and just not enough time?
Well, I mean, I hope so. I mean, they got looking out of that women's tournament they just did. There's a lot of talent in there. I don't know everybody who they signed out of it. There's some names like Toni Storm and Piper Niven, and apparently Candice LeRae is not even signed. I don't understand that at all. So she's still not signed. But, looking at a lot of the women who came out of that as stars, and you couple that with the women they already have down in NXT, it's not, as though they have a shortage of talent. There's plenty of women down there. So here's my thing, though. I think as long as you have the same people in power, i.e. Vince McMahon, the women are only going to go so far. I do think that when Triple H ascends to the throne, that we are going to see more of a focus on the women. I really do. But as long as Vince is the one in power, I think they're only going to go so far. I think when the day comes that you see women in either the WrestleMania main event or one of the WrestleMania main events, that'll be a big deal. I do think that's going to happen. I'm on record as saying that before. I'll stick to it. I think in the next couple of years, you're going to see a women's main event at WrestleMania. Now, I'm not saying last match on the card necessarily, but I mean a women's match promoted, truly promoted as one of the big main events on the card. I think we're only, maybe if that, a couple of years away from that. We may get that next year. If they do the horsewomen against horsewomen, we're going to get it next year. And that, I think, for the women is a big deal. You talk about when I started this show in 2007. If you would have told me then that we would be anywhere close to having a big women's match, even remotely looked at as a main event level match at a WrestleMania, I would have told you to go get your head examined. But we're a hell of a lot closer to that now than we were back then. So do I think it's going to happen? Yes, but I think it'll only happen, when we get to that point that we have, somebody else in a position of power in that company. Let's get to some mailbag questions. You can still call in, by the way. We have some spots open. We're going to get to more calls after these questions. 917-809-7297. If you would like to call in, get on the show live, that is the number for it. By the way, you are listening to the proud new owner of a Nintendo Switch. I forgot to update you guys, but I did make a post in our Facebook group asking you guys for feedback. And you guys came through. I got a lot of different opinions about this. I've been thinking about this for a while. I haven't owned a console since the first PlayStation came out, probably whatever year that was, 99, probably 2000. I finally bit the bullet the other day. I bought the Switch bundle with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I feel like I'm 15 years old again. I am regressing. Don't think I can do much with it for Sound Off Gamer, at least not natively, like you can with the PS4, but I like the portable aspect. I think it'll come in handy for those long commutes home, when it takes me 2 hours by bus to get from Manhattan to Brooklyn. A commute that door-to-door could not be longer than maybe half an hour. It takes me about 90 minutes or more every single day of every single week, so you can see how that might drive somebody a little mad. So, yeah. So, anyway, I haven't really had a chance to dive into it yet because I've been preparing for this. Hopefully this week I'll have a chance to get into that. First mailbag question here comes to us from Brandon in San Fernando, California. I went to the Stan Lee Los Angeles Comic-Con and The Rock was there to promote Jumanji. During the Q&A, he was asked who he would want to face for his last match. His 3 answers were Triple H, Brock Lesnar, or Roman Reigns. After the fans broke into a loud AJ Styles chant, Rock said that AJ was an awesome guy. Buy or sell on The Rock against Roman Reigns or The Rock against AJ Styles. I'm leaving off Triple H and Lesnar, as we have seen those matches already. Well, I'm still kind of miffed that we never got that Rock against Shawn Michaels match, and I think Rock and AJ, even though they're both in their 40s, could be that type of match. Rock and Roman might have a better story if you play off their family ties, but I would much rather see Rock and AJ and have Rock go out with the best match possible, because if we're being honest here, I was not impressed with his last match. And that's the second Cena match, not the 6-second match with Eric Rowan. Never forget that The Rock, as things stand right now, The Rock's last match was against Eric Rowan at WrestleMania. That can't be his last match. But I will say, if you include Triple H in that, I still want to see Triple H and The Rock have one more match. I know people are tired of that, and they're both old and all that, but I don't know. There's something about that. I would like to see those guys have one more match before all is said and done. But anyway, to answer your question, I think I want the AJ match more. But I would rank it Rock AJ, Rock Triple H, and then Rock and Brock with Rock and Roman coming up last. That would be my order for that. Travis from Somerset, Wisconsin. I was thinking of a good ending to Survivor Series, and I was wondering what your thoughts would be on the NXT roster attacking Brock Lesnar and Jinder Mahal to close out the pay-per-view. The justification is that they're brought up by the other burned NXT stars led by Triple H as part of an attempt at a hostile takeover of SmackDown. You don't go full invasion with the story, just be a constant threat. Shane and company have to defend against it as part of a long story leading to the Rumble and WrestleMania. That's from Travis in Somerset, Wisconsin. That would set up a Shane Triple H program for WrestleMania, so, it would accomplish that. It would make sense to go after SmackDown and not Raw, since his wife runs Raw and all. That would be kind of weird. It also reminds me that it was only a couple of months ago that WWE put that network survey out, floating all those different ideas for different tournaments. Remember one of those tournaments was WWE main roster guys against NXT? So the idea of seeing WWE against NXT is not that far-fetched. I don't think it's a good idea unless NXT is really shown to be on the level with the main roster guys. Otherwise, it's just going to bury the NXT crew, which would be a terrible idea. It's hard to imagine Brock Lesnar being beaten up by the NXT crew without getting some sort of revenge. I don't see it happening. But, it's just an idea. I like that it sets up a natural Shane Triple H feud. But Raw and SmackDown are equal opportunity offenders when it comes to screwing up certain NXT talents. I think beyond the Triple H Shane connection, I don't know that it works. It also would be a little too similar to how they brought up the Shield from NXT on this very pay-per-view. In fact, 5 years ago, they interfered in the main event. So, which reminds me, this month is 20 years since the Montreal Screwjob. You know that they're going to try to recreate the finish on this show coming up. So my question to you, and my question to everybody who is in the chat right now, is which match at Survivor Series do you think they do it in? That would be my question to you. If they're going to recreate the Montreal finish at Survivor Series this year, 20-year anniversary, got to do it one more time, can't help ourselves. Which match do you think they do it in? Do they do it in the Brock Jinder match? Do they actually have the gall to have Jinder beat Brock, but do it by way of Screwjob? I sure hope not. But they're going to want to do it. So that would be my fear when it comes to that. I hope to God that I'm wrong. I really do, but I don't have a lot of faith here. Josh from Smithfield, Virginia. How would you feel about Miz bringing up Tino Sabbatelli and Riddick Moss to form the new Miztourage? I'm not sure they're ready for the main roster, but if they are, let's say in the next 6 months, I like the idea. Tino Sabbatelli in particular, I think he would fit right in with The Miz, to the point where I think he would ultimately overshadow him, and it could actually end up being a great way to get them into a feud. He comes off as this arrogant SOB, driving a Maserati. He made some money in the NFL, thinks he's hot shit. I think it could be a great way to introduce the guy. And Riddick Moss, Riddick Moss is no slouch. He's a great athlete and all, but he just has no personality. There's nothing about the guy that's exciting. Or maybe he does. Maybe he does have a personality and we just haven't had a chance to see it yet. I don't know. But Tino's the one who really stands out to me. Let's see here. We'll do 2 more of these. We have Daniel from Cleveland. I was talking with a fellow lifelong wrestling fan about potential replacements for Triple H in the Clique in 1995, and I suggested Steve Austin. He shared many of the same characteristics: young, blonde hair, solid in-ring work, lack of a push in WCW. Austin also had a pre-existing friendship with Kevin Nash. If Austin had come to WWF in early 95 before Triple H, could Austin have been in the Clique, and if so, how would it have turned out? Well, first of all, I don't think it's fair to say that, like Triple H, Austin didn't get a push in WCW. Austin was actually very successful in WCW. Yeah, he wasn't the world champion wrestling Hogan or anything like that, but he won a bunch of other titles. I think he might have been TV and US champion, tag team champion. He had a successful run with the Dangerous Alliance, the Hollywood Blonde, so I think we need to give WCW a little more credit than that. Triple H, he was maybe a step above a job guy in WCW. If Austin would have joined the Clique instead of him, I guess it would have been him getting his King of the Ring taken away from him in 96, and it would have been Steve Austin eating shit for the rest of the year, and Triple H would have gotten the crown that year as he was originally supposed to. And if Austin 316 never happens, Austin loses a lot of money. I'll tell you that. I don't think it changes his overall path. I still think Steve Austin, no matter what, goes on to be the next big thing, but we don't get Austin 316, it does change things. There's no doubt about it. It definitely changes things a little bit. And we'll do one more mailbag question here. This one comes from Frank from the Bronx. Out of the following 3 names, if they were alive today, who would you be most intrigued by as the subject of a shoot interview? Ravishing Rick Rude, Owen Hart, or Brian Pillman? I would go with Rick Rude. I don't think you would get anything salacious out of Owen Hart. He just doesn't strike me from all accounts as being that kind of person. I'm not saying he wouldn't have any interesting stories, like, ribs that he played on people and stuff. And I'm sure Brian Pillman would have a lot of salacious stuff to say, but, I would have loved to hear stories from Rude about his days working with the Warrior in WWE and how that was, because after Randy Savage, I would say the person who gave Ultimate Warrior his best matches was Rick Rude. All the steroid scandal stuff. He was working for the company during that time. I think he even testified at Vince's trial. Then he went and had that big run in WCW, the back injury in the match with Sting that ended his career. I know he sued Sting over it. He sued WCW. I would have loved to get his take on that. Him leaving WWE for WCW and being on Raw and Nitro on the same night. Bobby Heenan. Bobby Heenan has said that Rude was the only guy he ever managed who hated him because Rude thought, Bobby was stealing his heat and all this other stuff. There's so many things I would love to ask the guy in a shoot-type interview. So for me, I think Rick Rude would be the most interesting choice of the 3, honestly. Let's take some more of your questions as we wind down the night here. I want to thank everybody, by the way, who already has called in. Everybody who sent questions, everybody who sent donations. You guys have made this a huge success already, and I can't thank you enough for it. Again, the phone number is 917-809-7297. There is still time to call in if you want to be part of the 10-year anniversary show. We'd love to get you on. In fact, we have a VIP on the line right now, and I'm going to try to get him on the line if we can take up some of his time. He's a very busy person. I believe we have Brian Blade on the line.
Good evening, Solomonster. I just arrived from Noah's home state of Florida.
That's right. You said you said you were flying in. I am glad that it was a safe flight. Welcome home.
A little delay, but I'm really glad I got to call in and congratulate you on your success. I'm really proud of you, and you just do a completely awesome job. So I wanted to be part of it, even if it's just for a little bit, even though I'm so damn exhausted.
Well, I'm glad you're able to call in too, because you're a big part of this family, and you've been a part of a lot of roundtables and a lot of shows. You have your haters and you have your fans, so I'm happy that you can be
more haters than fans.
More haters than fans, but that's fine. You know what they say. That's how you make money. So, but no, I'm very happy. I'm very happy you were able to call in. And anything else before I let you go?
Well, it's funny. I don't know if anyone knows how we first met. I'll make it very brief. The first time I actually ever met you in person was at dinner at a really nice Chinese restaurant before Survivor Series 2011, where CM Punk won his second bullshit 434 title reign in the mid-card. And I remember meeting you at the dinner in person, and I go, "Oh, are you that Solomonster guy?" And you go, "Don't call me that." And I'm thinking, "Oh, what a dick. Noah's friends with this guy." And then we had fun that night. We wound up going to Miami a few months later for Once in a Lifetime Part 1 of WrestleMania 28, and we've been buds ever since. So I'm happy to be part of the show, but more importantly, I'm happy to be a friend, my brother.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. Getting all mushy on me here as we continue on here on the show. This was not supposed to be a tender moment. You can't be bringing the show down to a level here where I'm reaching for the Kleenex or anything like that. So,
should we make fun of Noah? Because that always seems to be a conversation.
Yeah, that always does break the ice, doesn't it?
Well, it was fun seeing Noah down in Florida but again, I don't want to make it about us. It's about you and your fans and how awesome you are at breaking down professional wrestling, even though it could be so shitty at times. Even myself, I find myself fast-forwarding a bit, which I'm admitting publicly, which is a little embarrassing. But listening to you as a friend and as a professional podcaster, it really helps me get through what's going on. I'm not watching some of the crap that they put out. So, again, keep up the good work. To another 10, 20, 30 years, you're just not allowed to stop. You're going to go on and on And on and on and on, my brother.
Well, thank you. Thank you, my friend. I'm going to let you go, but thank you for calling in. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's funny. I've had a few moments, more than a few moments recently, where I honestly, as I'm watching Raw, I honestly am sitting here thinking to myself, why am I doing this? Like, I don't want to be watching the show anymore. But then I remind myself, it's only 1 week. The show is very bipolar. Next week it may be a great show. You never know. Plus, I have to talk about it on the show because I constantly get emails from people telling me I have given up. I don't watch anymore. I don't even watch SmackDown. I don't watch NXT. I rely on your show and a bunch of other shows just to keep up with what's going on. And it's sad in a way, but it's also kind of cool, I guess. But one of the cooler emails I got this week was from somebody who said he's been listening to me since he was 15 years old. He's in the UK. And he now, after all these years, he just graduated and he's about to buy his first house. And God, did that make me feel old. But I love getting emails like that. I love hearing stuff like that. So makes it all worthwhile. Let's move on down the list here. Again, you can definitely, I'm trying to get to as many as I can. I promise I will try to get to everybody. 917-809-7297. There's still time to get on here. Right now, let's go to, we have a fellow Brooklynite here on the line, Dalvin from Brooklyn.
Hey, Jason, it's Dalvin. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, Dalvin. How you been? I haven't seen you in a while.
Well, the last time I saw you was at the Bar Crawl and Five Borough Wrestling before that.
That's right. Yeah, I was at the Outlaw Wrestling show last night, not too far away from where Five Borough, and I didn't see you there.
No, I had Saturday class for college. So
I see.
You know how that goes.
I see.
Well, education before pleasure, so.
If you say so.
Sorry. Well, Jason, I'm just really happy to be a part of this right now. It was 3 years ago I started listening to you. I found you via TV tracks, and I was like, I need to listen to this guy more. And you got me back into wrestling mode all of a sudden. And it's thanks to you I now have a passion for wrestling again, even though 3 hours is killing me inside every night on a Monday.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I think we can all relate to that feeling. But what's your question?
Well, Jason, I had two questions, and it pertains to Rick Martel, really. One, what year do you think he will get into the Hall of Fame? And two, with his model character, do you think he should have had at least a good, short, brief run with the IC title at least?
That's a good question. Do I think that Rick Martel rather should have had a run with the IC belt? I don't know. I mean, they had guys like Mr. Perfect and Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat, Rick Rude, and a bunch of other guys, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. I don't know that there was necessarily a place for him, but I'm glad you mentioned I keep saying Rick Rude. I'm glad you mentioned Rick Martel because whenever I get a question about him, I love, talking about it on the show. And I actually heard, last time I talked about Rick Martel, I got a very nice message from somebody who, I don't know if he's, got any sort of official role with him, but he's sort of, I don't know if he runs like a Rick Martel fan page or exactly what the situation is, but he's in touch with Rick, who's not really online all that much. And he said that, a very nice segment that you did. Thank you very much for talking about Rick. And I said to him, I know Rick doesn't really do a lot of interviews. He's done the occasional shoot, and I've seen them, and he's very complimentary of people. He's not the kind of guy to go after people and attack them or anything like that. So he's a very classy guy in that respect. But I have a lot of respect for Rick Martel because here's a guy who had success in the wrestling business. He had his run. He went to WCW in the late 90s. He was actually having a really good run there, and it would have gone longer, but then he had like a really major knee injury, and at that point, his career was over. And he accepted it, and he said, well, my career is over. And I think he went into real estate, has a whole other life and a whole other career for himself, and was able to just completely extricate himself from the wrestling business and seems to be happy. So I have a lot of respect for him, and I think he absolutely belongs in the Hall of Fame. AWA champion, WWF Tag Team champion, had the run as the model. I mean, that's how a lot of people are going to remember him, but he had a whole career even before he played that model character. So do I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame? Absolutely. When do I think he'll get into the Hall of Fame? That's impossible to say. I think it's going to be a case where 1 year somebody says, hey, what about Rick Martel? And it's like, oh, we have a spot to fill. Okay, let's put him in there. It's not a case where they're actively looking, to put Rick Martel in the Hall of Fame. I think he'll just end up in there when they have a spot open one year. Could be next year. Could be, 5 years from now. I have no idea when it's going to happen. Hopefully it happens, though, because I think he belongs in there. Let's see here. We have California Kid. Anthony, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here, Solomonster.
Welcome.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
That's great. Yeah, so 10 years, man. Congratulations on that, man.
Thank you.
I've been listening to you since 2013, and I'm in college right now, about to get ready to graduate. But besides that, let me get to my question real quick. So, 10 years of sounding off, man. What has been your biggest moment in all of the 10 years you've been sounding off?
Ooh, that's a good one. Biggest moment. I don't know. I mean, I've had a lot of really cool moments doing the show. I guess it would be all the people I've been able to meet, like you guys, but also I've been able to do a lot of really cool interviews. Even this year, WrestleCon. I'll tell you what, one of them for me, and you heard his voice in our intro that Noah helped put together, by the way. Shout out to Noah Mark. We like to rag on each other, but he put a lot of work into helping me out, preparing for this show, and putting that the audio portion of the intro together. I did the video, he did the audio, but one of my favorite moments was earlier this year at WrestleCon when I got to sit down with Mean Gene Okerlund. A literal sit-down interview with Mean Gene Okerlund. Here's a guy who was the quintessential wrestling announcer. I watched him from the time I was 4 years old. He is what a wrestling announcer to me should be. We don't have anybody like him today. And to be able to sit down with him and pick his brain and interview him for about 9 or 10 minutes, and some of the things he said to me off the air was very nice. That, to me, is one of the all-time highlights for me. And I wouldn't have gotten that opportunity if it wasn't for, doing this podcast. So that was cool. Being able to do a lot of the in-person interviews with some of the WWE people in Miami and then some of the 2K18 events. I could go up and down the list. I mean, there's so many cool moments that make doing this worthwhile. So now we have somebody else. I'm going to put him on the phone right now. This is going to be something else right here. This is going to send the Facebook group into a tizzy because I have on the line right now the one and only Luis from Los Angeles.
Hey, what's up, Solomonster?
Oh, my goodness gracious. Luis, how are you? Just put your volume down just a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. What's your question?
Well, I'm just calling in to say happy 10th anniversary. Here's to 10 more.
Thank you. That's very nice of you to say. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right.
Okay. Well, there you go. Thank you very much for calling in. Maybe the most concise call that we've ever had here on one of these shows. So there you go, Luis, doing a drive-by here on the 10-year anniversary show. Always interesting to talk to Luis. Let's go to Ian from Chicago. He's on the phone.
Hey, Solomonster.
How are you?
I'm good. It's been a while since we had that interview about a month ago.
Yes, I know. And thank you for doing that. It was very nice to speak to you.
Sure thing. And thanks for doing it as well. I mean, I've been, like I said, on that interview, I've been a fan of your show the last few years, and you're the main show that I listen to really when it comes to wrestling news and wrestling talk and everything.
Thank you.
Again, happy 10th anniversary. And the question I wanted to ask, because I know you've got a lot of other callers, so I don't want to take up too much time. So I'm a huge fan of invasion angles when done right. And I don't know if this would actually technically be considered an invasion angle, but I was wondering what your thoughts would be if, let's say TNA or whatever is finally belly up and WWE gets the library footage, or tying back also with that question somebody was asking about NXT, quote unquote, invading Raw or SmackDown. What are your thoughts on actually a team that's been built up of some of the stars already in the main roster? So let's say if they were to do some sort of, not really referring to ROH, but let's say a group that ties in AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. Let's say Daniel Bryan is able to wrestle again. They bring back CM Punk, something like that. Like that kind of team of wrestlers. almost like an uprising, so to speak, that had been together outside of the WWE or outside of Raw or SmackDown together to make some sort of statement and kind of building that kind of like invasion or uprising kind of idea.
Well, thank you for the question. I was talking about WWE and NXT a little while ago. This is a little bit of a different take on that idea. And by the way, again, just so people know, we'll take some more calls here for a little while. If you want to call in, there's still time, 917-809-7297. Or if you have somebody you want to suggest, you want to let them know to call in, by all means, go ahead and do so. The lines are still open. So, so basically what I'm hearing there in your question is it's almost like taking guys who sort of made their name on the indies, almost like an indie team, which sounds kind of weird saying that because AJ and Owens and people like that it's been years since they've really been on the indies, but I don't know. I think that would have worked maybe 5 years ago. I don't think that works now. I think those guys are big enough on their own where, you don't really have to put them, like Kevin Owens and AJ Styles together. It would make no sense to put them together unless there was something tying them together. So what would tie them together is basically their indie background, their ROH background. I don't think that's going to work. And WWE would never do it. They would never do it. So it's a nice idea in theory, but I just think the time for that was years ago, honestly. And I just, it's just, I don't know. I don't get excited when I think about that idea. It just doesn't work for me. Let's go to Richmond, Virginia. This should be Steven. You there?
Hey.
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 Hey, glad to be calling in again. I called in on the episode 500 and got to meet you and Noah at the Orlando meetup day of WrestleMania. And I have a Hall of Fame question for you.
Great.
Do you think Andy Kaufman is Hall of Fame worthy? Because I think it would be a good time to do that since they have the Man on the Moon documentary coming out on Netflix, Jim and Andy. And he had a really good run in Memphis with Lawler. And do you think, because him being one of the first celebrities involved in wrestling, do you think he's WWE Hall of Fame worthy?
Yeah, I mean, they got a celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame. As long as they have that, there's no reason for Andy Kaufman not to be in there. I mean, he probably should have been one of the first ones, in all honesty. I mean, talk about a celebrity being involved in wrestling where it actually got mainstream coverage. He took bumps, to put the other guy over. It's not like he came in thinking, oh, my shit doesn't stink, and the wrestler lost to the celebrity, which I hate. I just don't like when, the celebrity comes in and the wrestler has to job to the celebrity. It's like, ugh. But Andy came in and he probably cut a better promo than most guys on the WWE roster today. He was entertaining as all hell. He knew how to play the role of a heel. And a lot of people have said, you missed your calling, dude. You should have been in the wrestling business as a manager. He wouldn't have cut it as a wrestler because he just wasn't big enough. But as a manager, could Andy Kaufman have been a Hall of Fame worthy manager? Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Probably did miss his calling. But should he be in the Hall of Fame? Yes. Yes, I believe he should. Brock from North Carolina.
Hey, Jason, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Brock. How are you?
I'm doing good. Want to congratulate you for 10 great years on the Sound Off. Even though I've only been listening for a couple years, I've always looked forward to it every Sunday.
Thank you.
And I wanted to ask you, one of my favorite parts of the Sound Off is the cold opens that you do most weeks. And I wanted to ask if you have like a favorite one that you've done or one that you prefer.
I do. And I get asked this a lot. And I think my choice is probably the same as a lot of you guys. I don't remember offhand which episode number it was. And again, this goes back to Noah. It was Noah who helped me out a lot on this one. But the McMahon's Pastry Palace intro, that's honestly one that I've gone back to listen to because I just love how that whole thing came together. If you guys knew half the stories about how these intros are even put together and how last minute a lot of them are, you would think we were nuts. But that one is one of the really good ones. So shout out to Noah. Without him, that one would not have been possible. So I'd go with McMahon's Pastry Palace. Let's go to James in Massachusetts. James, you are on the Sound Off.
I'm sure I just wanted to congratulate you first off on 10 hard-working years of the Solomonster Sounds Off. My question to you kind of comes from a little podcast I did. What, if any band or any pop singer, country singer, doesn't matter, what person or band would you have make your wrestling theme song? It could be any band, not necessarily like a theme you would pick like any song, but a band to make your song.
A band to do a theme song for me if I were a wrestler. I bet if I let you guys in the chat figure it out, you'd probably come up with it in about 10 seconds. I probably would. I mean, look, I'm a big Hall & Oates fan just because, look, I grew up, like, in my household, that's all I heard was Hall & Oates, Maneater, Private Eyes, Out of Touch, Say It Isn't So, on and on and on. And, by the way, you can find on YouTube Daryl Hall. I don't know if he still does it or not, but it's called like Daryl's House or Daryl's Home, and it's not really his home, but it's like some bar or restaurant that he bought many years ago that he owns. And he had an area, like, it looks like a basement. It looks like the basement of his house. And he set up like a whole studio down there. And he'll have people like celebrities and other musicians come in and just play with him. And there's a whole bunch of these episodes on YouTube, and I wish I knew if they were still doing them or not. And it's just, it really, it's like the coolest thing to watch. So I've always been a big fan of their work, and I would love to hear in the year 2017 what they might be able to come up with for somebody as a wrestling theme song. I think Daryl Hall by now is probably like 70 or something, but I don't know. That's the best answer I could give you right now. That'd be my choice. Charlie, there's another caller here from San Antonio, Texas. Charlie, you are on the air.
Hello, Solomonster. How are you doing?
I'm doing tremendous. How are you?
I'm doing really good, and I just wanted to thank you on the 10-year anniversary. I started listening to the podcast, and I think it was in 2013, and around Night of Champions when on TV tracks, and you're one of the reasons why I started a YouTube channel and started trying to branch out in that and hopefully one day do podcasting. Still don't know what the topic will be of that because I got a lot of things. Like right now, just on YouTube, it's random things on there, movie reviews and just family videos and all that. But hopefully, I'll start doing more on wrestling because I've been watching a lot of stuff on the WWE Network that I would actually like to sink my teeth into and reviewing and talking what ifs and all that.
Yeah, it's very you got a lot of options there in the network to sink your teeth into. But what's your question?
Yes, actually, it's because of the network. I was rewatching some old WCW shows and pay-per-views from '99, mainly from Sting's heel turn. And the fact that they misused him really in the heel turn, I believe. I was watching something. I didn't really, besides him attacking Hogan that one time on Nitro, I think the most heelish thing he did was attack J.J. Dillon. I think it was the night after Halloween Havoc when he got stripped of the title. And my question is, if it was booked right, could Sting's heel turn could have worked? I know the fans were cheering him and all that still, despite him heel, but if they made him a little more, I guess, sinister in his attacks and all that, would it have worked? That's really the question, because honestly, I thought if they could have had him, if they booked him right, if they had the right people booking him, it could have worked tremendously, in my opinion.
Well, thank you for the question. Could a Sting heel turn have worked? Before I get to that, there's actually a bit of breaking news here. Although I guess this happened last week. It's just something I noticed on PW Insider here a moment ago. And I have to bring this up because, ironically, when I was talking about the Leo Rush story earlier, I mentioned Tough Enough Josh Brettel, who won Tough Enough and then got himself into some heat by tweeting something that pissed a lot of wrestlers off. And I made the comment that, contrary to popular belief, he was still with the company. There was a period last year where people thought he had been fired or released from the company. And in fact, that was not true. And lo and behold, here on PW Insider, just a few minutes ago, actually a few hours ago now, I guess, Mike Johnson reports that Josh Brettel, who won WWE Tough Enough, was released at the end of last week by WWE. So there you go. So much for him still being with the company. Tough Enough Josh, his $250,000 contract notwithstanding, is no longer employed by World Wrestling Entertainment. So I don't know, the track record of success for a lot of these Tough Enough people is not that great. I guess Miz didn't win Tough Enough, but would Miz be one of the most successful people? I mean, Miz would have to be, if not the big success story, certainly one of the top 3, I would think, big success stories to come out of Tough Enough. Just offhand, headline WrestleMania, WWE champion, been with the company over 10 years. But it's few and far between when you look for Tough Enough winners. Big Andy. Remember Big Andy? Didn't he get caught like in a drug den or something in Mexico or something? Shoving drugs up his ass as like a drug mule. I don't know what he was doing. But anyway, so that's the story on Josh. I just wanted to mention that because I brought up Josh's name a little earlier. But back to the question. And again, call in if you guys want to call. I'm trying to get to as many people as I can. 917-809-7297. There are slots open. If not, keep calling in. I promise I will try to get to you. Sting, heel turn, WCW. Could it have worked? Yes, I think it could have worked. I don't know about 98, 99. I actually think back to Surfer Sting in the early 90s, and I think that version of Sting, I think there was a way to turn him heel. I really do. I think Flair is a guy who I know loved playing heel. If you gave him the choice, he would never, ever be a babyface. But Flair is such a great heel and a great babyface that I think babyface Flair and heel Sting could have worked. I really do. I mean, I'd have to think about how I would set that story up. But I do think a babyface Flair back then against a heel Sting absolutely could have worked. And actually, now that you mention that, I kind of want to see that. Marcus. Let's go to Marcus here. We have a lot of listeners from Texas here tonight. This caller comes from Dallas, Texas. Marcus, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here. What's up, dude?
I'm sorry for keeping you so long. Another one here on the line for almost an hour, but thanks for hanging in there.
Dude, it's no problem, man. I just want to say, I do have a question, but before I get that, I just want to say congrats on 10 years, like everybody's been saying.
Thank you.
Been listening for about 4 years, and I'm one of those guys that gave up on Raw and SmackDown, so I appreciate that you still watch it because it keeps me caught up.
I can't tell you how many people I hear that from. It's actually incredible, but I appreciate the support.
I bet. I bet it is, man. But my question, it's kind of a bummer, but I was thinking about, retirements. Everybody does it, and it's kind of sad. And with Ric Flair at WrestleMania, I think it was 24, when he, quote unquote, retired after the match with Shawn Michaels. I just want to know, what are like some of your like most depressing like retirements that you've seen? Like whether it be somebody retired for injury or if they were just, up there in age, like anything.
Depressing, I guess there've been a lot of them, actually. I think Edge is the first one that popped into my head. The guy was the world champion, and, he's told one day, that's it, you're done. No more. That's it. No farewell match. You don't get to drop the title. You don't get to lose it to your friend Christian or anything like that. Just, you're in the WrestleMania Championship match one day, although, he was opening the show, but still. And then a week later, you're told your career is done. And at that point, Edge was what, 37 maybe? 36, 37? I mean, that's pretty shitty. And just, you could see it on his face. I mean, the guy was devastated. That's all he's ever wanted to do is wrestle. Edge sucked as a retirement. I felt so bad for him. Daniel Bryan is another one. Daniel Bryan is still fighting like hell. He's going to wrestle again. There's not that in my mind. He's leaving the company in September. Unless WWE suddenly has a change of heart, he's out of there. He's going to be going he'll go to Japan, he'll go to Ring of Honor, he'll do a mask match in Mexico, he'll do all that stuff he wants to do. But to see the look on his face when he was told he couldn't wrestle anymore, I remember watching him in the Wrestling Road Diaries, the first movie that Colt Cabana did. It's all the guy knew how to do. It's all he ever wanted to do was wrestle. Imagine doing something in life that you wanted to do more than anything else, and then one day some guy is like, yeah, you're done. That's it. And you're only in your like mid-30s, early 30s, mid-30s. It's like, what do you do with the rest of your life? A lot of these guys didn't even go to college. They just went right into wrestling. So Daniel Bryan and Edge are the two that really stand out to me. I guess Droz wasn't really a retirement, but anybody who's ever been injured or paralyzed in the ring who has their career cut short is a tragedy. Hayabusa was another one. But as far as like formal retirements, I would have to go with those two. We have another VIP caller here, somebody who I gave a shout out to earlier tonight, who actually, if I can draw attention to it, the graphic that you see on your screen right now is credited to this individual. Steve from Toronto is on the line.
Solomonster, how is it going, my man?
Good. I want to thank you again for all the work that you've done for me. I really appreciate it.
And I got to thank you for 10 years of an awesome podcast, man. I listened to a lot of them, but I'm sure you've heard this before. There's just something about your voice that, I don't know, it's therapeutic. Like I listen to when I cut the grass on Sunday or whenever I got to do the most boringest of tasks. And it's a great podcast, man. Congratulations. I just hope to see it keep growing, and I'm glad I can help out. And I'm glad I can actually talk to you for the first time.
I'm glad you're able to call in. That's really cool. So, is there anything else, or we'll move along here?
No, I just wanted to. I'll let other people get through. I just wanted to congratulate you, and keep it up.
Awesome. Thank you again, Steve. I really appreciate all your help.
No problem. Have a good one, man.
You too. That was Steve. You can check out his site, ProWrestlingLinks.com. We have another VIP caller on the line right now. Actually, I don't know if he's on. All right, he may not be on yet. We're gonna get him on shortly, though. He's being funneled through the queue. I think he's actually calling in right now. So we'll get to him here in a second. We'll leave him as a surprise. Let's go to. Oh man, we have lots of different states here. And we'll go to Jacob. Why don't we go to him? Caller here from Cleveland, Ohio. Jacob, you are on the show.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing great. Today is actually a huge holiday for me. Today is a Browns bye week, so I'm just kicking back and listening to you today and not suffering through another week of Browns football. But I digress. First of all, congratulations on, your 10-year, just an amazing accomplishment for someone that wants to get into broadcasting and radio like myself. So it's pretty amazing to hear that someone like you can make it 10 years of, torture from, Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. But I want to bring up an interesting theory, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So I've said this since the brand extension happened a year ago. Don't you find it funny that once everyone stopped caring about SmackDown, Vince decided, hey, let's make the brand split happen and let's make SmackDown sort of relevant again. So he does it, and he puts all the good people on SmackDown and all the, the lower card talent on Raw. We all know what happened there. Raw pretty much got annihilated by SmackDown. Do you notice as soon as everyone started talking about SmackDown and everyone bashed Raw, Vince decided, let's shake it up. And now all of a sudden it seems like the cards are reversed. Raw's doing amazing and people are hating SmackDown.
Yeah, I don't think, I really don't think that's any coincidence at all. You're absolutely right. SmackDown was on fire. People were really into the show, and then the shakeup happened. And it's like they gave SmackDown shaken baby syndrome or something. All of a sudden, the show went from way up here to a few notches below where they had been. I don't want to sit here and say SmackDown is a bad show, because I don't think SmackDown's bad, but it ain't what it used to be. And I don't think that's a coincidence at all. I think whether it's Vince or whoever it was, I don't know if it's a case of SmackDown just getting too big for its own good, overshadowing Raw. People were like, oh yeah, SmackDown #1, Raw sucks. I don't know. I don't know what the thought process was there, but I tend to think it wasn't a coincidence, so you are not the only one who has that theory. Let's go to our esteemed VIP caller who we tried to get through before. I'm going to try to get him on now. Why is this not working? All right, well, let's keep our fingers crossed and hope this worked. Do we have a certain lunatic here on the phone?
Yes, sir, Jason. How's it going?
Very good. We have Chuck Lunatic Lentz here calling into the Sound Off.
Well, I just wanted to tell you happy 10-year anniversary, man. It's just a great accomplishment. Just like your 500th episode. It's unbelievable, really.
Well, thank you. And you've been a big part of it. I mean, I was saying earlier when I did the roll call. And by the way, if you made a PayPal donation and you haven't heard your name yet, we are going to do more here in a little bit, so hang tight. But I mentioned you earlier, and you've been a fan of the show for, what, about 6 years now?
Yes, it was actually 166 was my first episode. That was the episode right after the CM Punk pipe bomb would be the first time that I listened. So since then, I've listened every week.
Well, I'm very grateful for all of your support, and I'm happy that you were able to make it through here. I saw your call before, and then I saw it got terminated. I'm like, oh no, and then I saw you called back. I'm like, all right, thank goodness, I got to go to him now.
Yeah, we've been having some problems, but hey, I do have a quick question for you, real quick,
Sure.
if you don't mind. As you may know, I'm a big fan of Bray Wyatt, but man, has it been hard to be a fan of Bray Wyatt lately. So my question is there any hope for this guy, or does he just need to go away, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think there is hope for him. I still go back to the whole babyface turn. I think if they ever want to go full babyface with this guy, not that he's going to be, kissing babies or anything like that, but maybe tweener is the better term for it. We kind of got a glimpse of that. Remember that one episode of Raw where he teamed up with Roman Reigns? That great finishing sequence. I think he laid somebody out with Sister Abigail. At the same time, Roman dove into somebody for a spear. That moment told me right there, like, okay, there could be something with this guy in a babyface role. And then what happened? He got hurt. And that's one of the stories about this guy's career, is that he couldn't seem to stay healthy enough. And you wonder about him going forward. Is it, a case where the guy's injury prone? Now I guess he had some kind of virus, which I guess is not his fault. Now he's back now, but Bray Wyatt in his current incarnation is just boring as all hell. There's just no two ways around it. The promo style, he just the same stuff over and over again. It's just not that interesting. And I wouldn't say give up on the guy. I just think you got to tweak that character a little bit, and you can have something in him. I remember it was the Royal Rumble a couple of years ago. He had a face-off in the ring with Triple H. I think it was in the Rumble, and people went nuts for it. So it wouldn't take a whole hell of a lot, I don't think, to rehab the guy. So yeah, I would not give up on him at all. But what they're doing with him now is just it's absolutely ridiculous. And if they insist on doing that, then yeah, they are going to burn this guy out. But hopefully what happened, they dropped the Finn Balor thing. He didn't have to dress up in drag as Sister Abigail, thank God. I look at that and say, you know what? It was a sign from the wrestling gods. This was a good thing that happened to this guy. The best thing that could happen to him is keep him off TV for a little while and bring him back in kind of a different role and see if the fans start to get behind him. Let's see who we go to. We've had a couple people on the line here for a while. Again, if you want to call in, I know there were some people who said they tried and they gave up, but you still got time. 917-809-7297 is the phone number to call. Let's go to Nick in Great Falls, Montana. He's been waiting for a while.
Yeah, congratulations on the 10 years of the Sound Off. I actually found it through TV Tracks back in 2014, which seems like a lot of people here tonight.
A lot of people.
Yeah, so one kind of goofy question and a couple of serious ones. What's it like knowing your 10-year Sound Off is doing better in viewership than TNA Global Force Impact Bound for Glory?
I don't know about that, but it seems like it, doesn't it? It seemed like there was actually more of a buzz around this show over the last few days than there was for that Bound for Glory pay-per-view.
That's definitely true. I saw the picture of Ed Nordholm tweeted the arena. I'm like, wow.
Well, yeah, I saw
far cry from where they were 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was sad. I mean, I saw that picture too. You could tell it was a much bigger building, and they had like a little section cordoned off for it. It reminded me of when they ran. It might have been Bound for Glory when they ran Bound for Glory in the Alamo Dome, which the Alamo. I still don't know why they ran that building. The Alamo Dome can fit like 70,000 people, but they carved out like a little notch. So it was kind of weird, like looking at them run a show in like a corner of the building, but That's kind of what I got from the photo that he posted on Twitter a little earlier. It's sad. You know, after 15, 16 years, you would think the company would be able to run a full building, but, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, for a company that had guys like AJ Styles and Samoa Joe, and now, yeah, it's kind of sad. Now we get into my second set of questions, considering hopefully we get a season 4, but Lucha Underground, out of everyone that popped up on that show, from the Kill Shots to the Dante Foxes, who were the people that you just became instant fans of that you had no experience watching outside of the show?
Well, I mean, the people that I really didn't know a whole lot about and didn't really see a lot of their work before. I mean, I guess, you know, Mil Muertes was Judas Messias for a while in TNA, so I had seen his work. But, like, as Mil Muertes in that character, Katrina, you know, obviously she was Maxine in that season of NXT. It was the women's season, season 3 maybe of NXT. Like, I knew of her. I've seen her before. But I became instant fans of that combo. I became a huge fan of Pentagon, as a lot of people have. I heard of him, but I never really watched his work before. So I became a big Pentagon fan. Angelico, you know, Eva Lee. I mean, there's a lot of people. You know, when I did my final Lucha Underground review a few weeks ago, I ran down my list of VIPs, and I think they were all on the list. Dario Cueto, for God's sakes. I mean, my God. I know he was an actor they brought in. He wasn't a wrestling personality, but still. I'm going to be very sad if they don't bring that show back. It's not looking too good right now, but I'll be very, very sad if they don't bring that show back. There is one person who called in earlier who I'm told forgot to say something. Deadpool. We have Deadpool back on the line.
Hey, Solomonster. You know what? I really just wanted to congratulate you after 10 years of doing the same thing what you're doing right now. I simply wanted to say thank you because, you know what? I got cut off in the middle of asking you the question, and then I totally forgot to congratulate you. And you know what? Thank you very much, man. You guys...
Well, I cut him off by accident. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That means a lot. I want to go to Sam here. We got Sam. Yes, we have Sam on the line here. No, we don't have Sam on the line. Hold on a second here. We have Sean. We have Sean from Pittsburgh on the line. Sean, are you there?
Hey, Solomonster. You may remember me as the Daniel Bryan shirt guy with the belt.
Yes, I do. How are you, my friend?
Good. How are you? And congrats.
I'm doing great. What's your question?
I just wondered what you thought would have become of Bret Hart if he had stayed with the company and Survivor Series had never happened.
Well, I think Bret and Austin. I think Bret would have put over Austin at WrestleMania, probably in '98. And I think Bret, I don't know, it's hard to say how many more years he had. I think Bret might have ended up being the first person to become, I mean, now we have part-time guys all over the place who only wrestle a few times a year. I think Bret probably would have been the first guy to get a sweet deal like that. I mean, he had signed a 20-year deal with the company, so he wasn't going anywhere. He would have been in the Hall of Fame and, you know, all that stuff. He probably would have been commissioner. I mean, these are all things he ended up doing eventually, but I think he would have done them a lot earlier. And I think you can make the argument that if he doesn't get screwed, he doesn't go to WCW, if that chain of events doesn't happen, there's a pretty good chance he doesn't have the bike accident, he doesn't have the stroke. I mean, it's impossible to say, but if none of that happens, then, you know, it changes the end of his career a lot. He would have had a lot more years in him. We would have had him against Kurt Angle. Probably would have had him against John Cena. You know, a lot of those guys in the Ruthless Aggression era. Bret wouldn't have been that old. He would have been able to wrestle all of those guys. So it's too bad. It's too bad that we were screwed out of that opportunity. And let's get Sam on the line. I thought I was putting her through before, but we have Sam on the line right now.
Hi, Jason. How are you?
I'm doing very good. How are you?
Pretty good. Congratulations on 10 years.
Thank you. I'm sorry. You know, one of the things that Sam had tried to get me to do was to plan a little Halloween get-together here in the city, and we couldn't make it happen. Maybe next year we'll make it happen, but she
for sure. Like, plan on more in advance.
Yeah, but she tried her heart out. We just couldn't make it a reality.
So I did have a question. I went and I bought my tickets for Raw 25th anniversary at Barclays Center, but I also know that they're going to do the Manhattan Center, which you were sure that they were going to do. What are your thoughts on the fact that they are going to have the two shows? Are you going to go to the one of them?
Yeah, I wanted to. I was talking about this earlier. I really have no interest in going to the Barclays Center. I just watched that at home. But I said, man, if they were to just run a show at the Manhattan Center, I'd be there in a heartbeat. And then they announced it, and then they put tickets on sale, and tickets were gone. I didn't even have a chance. But then I saw like some of the tickets that were available were $400, $500. I can't bring myself to do it. I just can't bring myself to spend that kind of money on a ticket to like WrestleMania or a big show like that, Wrestle Kingdom or something. That's one thing, but to Raw. And I've been in that building for Ring of Honor shows. I've been in that Grand Ballroom for Ring of Honor shows in the 2008, 2009 period. It's not the nicest building in the world. It's got that nostalgia feel to it. Would I spend $400 to sit there? No, I can't do it. I mean, look, if I get the chance to, and it's not that much money, I would jump at it. But I just can't, in good conscience, I can't bring myself to do it. Let's go to Ivan in Houston, Texas.
Hey, Solomonster. Big fan, been listening since the SE Scoop days. Just want to ask a quick question. If your brother put you in a vegetative state, what would you do?
I wouldn't do anything. I'd be in a vegetative state. I mean, if you're in a vegetative state, there's not a whole hell of a lot that you can do. So, there you go. That's your answer. I can't answer it any more simply than that. We'll wind down here in a little bit. We're getting to the end of the show. If you still want to call in, there's still a chance. 917-809-7297. I love hearing from you guys. So if you want to call in, that is the number. Noah Mark is screening all of the calls tonight. He is at the helm. He is at the controls. So maybe if you slip him a 20... Nah, I'm just kidding. But, 917-809-7297. As we prepare to wrap up the show here shortly, we'll try to take a few more. Let's go to... Let's see, who's been on the line for a while? You know what? Charlie in Tennessee has been on the line for a while. Charlie, you there?
Solomonster!
How are you?
Are you there?
I'm there. I'm good. You're way more excited than anybody should be at 11 o'clock at night, but I'm glad you're calling in.
Of course I'm excited. This is your 10-year anniversary.
You're more excited than I am.
Oh, come on.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, anyway, I just want to say thank you so much for all that you've done, and thanks to Noah Mark. He was a very gracious host when I called in. I also want to ask you a question. You and I are very close to the same age, roughly the same age, and we grew up in the glory days of the WWF. I got into wrestling because of, this is hard to believe, the jobber matches. So I want to know from you, who were your two favorite jobbers during the glory days of the WWF?
My two? Well, I know one of them, I mean, for sure. One of my favorite job guys was Iron Mike Sharp, who would always make noise. It didn't matter what he was doing. If he was arguing with the referee, he would make noise. If he got hit, he would make noise. If he threw a punch, he would make noise. And it was always like that, whoa, yeah, he sounded like a bushwhacker in there. Didn't look like one, but he sounded like one. So Iron Mike Sharp, who unfortunately I think has since passed away, he would be one. And I guess, I don't know, I guess Barry Horowitz would be the other. I was going to go with Lombardi, but, that's kind of a stock answer, Brooklyn Brawler. So I would go with Iron Mike Sharp and Barry Horowitz, who was the jobber. I mean, he was the jobber. I mean, he was always there for years and years and years. From when I first started watching wrestling all the way up until the point they gave him a push. That's how bad things got in 1995. People think I'm lying when I talk about how awful 1995 was for a while there in WWE. You had talented guys like Hakushi and Owen Hart and the 1-2-3 Kid. There were some good matches. But my God, was that a bad year. And it was so bad that Barry Horowitz got a push and a pay-per-view match against Chris Candido. If that doesn't say it all, then I don't know what does. Joseph from Long Island. Joseph, you are on the air.
Hey, what's up, Solomonster? Happy 10-year anniversary, man.
Thank you very much. What is your question?
My question is, I want to know what's your take on people who should have been on top in WWE versus people who should not have been, maybe as well as TNA or Ring of Honor. Someone like a Christopher Daniels. TNA and Ring of Honor both had many chances to put him on top, and they never took it. Meanwhile, someone like, Jinder Mahal is on top in WWE. For the sake of creativity, where do you stand on that? Why do those things happen, and why do they continue to happen for so long at our expense?
Well, I mean, it happens because there's one guy who makes the decisions at the top of WWE. He either likes you or he doesn't. If he thinks he can make money with you, then he'll push you. I mean, we've had ex-writers for WWE do interviews where they were in meetings with Vince when the nail, got put in the coffin for somebody like a Dolph Ziggler. And in that case, that was a case where John Cena, as the story goes, John Cena, who worked with Dolph and wanted to work with Dolph, was excited to work with Dolph, worked with him, and then went to Vince and said he doesn't have it. That was it. Because Cena's word is just worth its weight in gold when it comes to Vince McMahon. So in certain situations like that, guys get sabotaged. I mean, how many guys do you think were sabotaged when Triple H was the world champ? During that reign of terror, when he was sitting in on all those meetings. He tried to sabotage Kurt Angle in 2000. As the legend goes. Remember? And Gerald Briscoe had to put him in his place. Oh, he's too small. They wanted to put the world title on Angle for the first time, and Triple H is sitting in on these meetings. Oh, he's too small. It's not believable as the world champ. And Gerald Briscoe's like, you want to be in a shoot match with this guy? He'll show you how believable he is. And Triple H shut up after that. And they put the title on Kurt. That was a pretty good call on their part, I would say. How many people do you think did not have somebody like Gerald Briscoe in those meetings to stick up for them? How many people? Rob Van Dam may have been one of them. Again, ex-writer working for WWE at the time said the plan was for Rob Van Dam to win that world title at the end of 2002. Not Triple H. Or maybe Triple H takes it out of the briefcase, but then RVD beats him at that Unforgiven show. Instead, if I remember, I think it was Ric Flair with a low blow, and RVD never did get that run with the big gold belt. You just wonder how many other people were sabotaged. We'll never know. I'm sure it's a lot. Let's go to James in Chicago. If this call will go through, here we go. James in Chicago, you're on the air.
Hey, Solomonster. Congratulations on the 10 years.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So my question is, if you were given the opportunity to work for WWE in any department that you could choose, whether it be in Stamford, Connecticut, as a performer, production, or heck, even or like one of the executives or CEO, you could choose anywhere. Where would you work, and why would you work there?
I would work in the position that pays me the most money. That's my answer. That's what it's all about. I would want to work in the job that's going to, be able to pay me the most money and is the most desirable, maybe good benefits. That's honestly probably a front office position. Although I think the announcers in the company, I don't know how that works with the announcers in the company, because technically they're performers. So you would think that they're under a performer's contract, like someone like JoJo or Renee Young. But I could also see them having, an employee contract, so I'm not sure how that works with them. Being like an announcer type or something, that was kind of, when I was a kid, that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be a wrestler. I wanted to be the guy like Mean Gene holding the microphone in his hand. And I think that would have been really cool 20 years ago or 25 years ago. I don't even know how cool that would be today, honestly, the way that everybody is so micromanaged. Dasha Bot on SmackDown. My God, if that was ever me, Solo Bot on SmackDown, just literally pull the plug out of my back. I don't want that. That doesn't look like fun. I want to be able to have fun and enjoy what I'm doing. So I don't know what position that would be. I don't know if that would be an announcer. I don't know if that would be in the web department. Maybe working for the network. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe working for the network. That way I get to sit around all day and watch classic wrestling clips. Doesn't sound like a bad gig. Beth, from Nashville, Tennessee.
Hey, Solomonster, first off, happy 10-year anniversary. Like most of the people on here, I found you, I want to say the summer of last year through TV Tracks, and I've been listening for a little over a year now, and it's great.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, so my question is, what, in your opinion, is the best WrestleMania of all time and the worst WrestleMania of all time? Now, depending on who you are, like how old the fan is, how long they've been watching wrestling, blah, 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 everybody has their own opinion. To me, the best WrestleMania is WrestleMania 17. But I'm an Attitude Era kid, so I'm biased. And in my opinion, the worst WrestleMania, it would have to be 27. That's just like the most god-awful WrestleMania I've ever seen. But what's your opinion?
Well, that's a good one. Best and worst WrestleMania. By the way, I apologize for the people who heard music there. I switched slides. I forgot that was one that had music, so I apologize. Best and worst WrestleManias. My favorite WrestleMania... You know, I was at 30, and I gotta say, I thought there was a lot of really good stuff at 30. I don't know that I could say the best of all time. 30 is up there for me, honestly. It is up there. But if I had to pick one show as the best of all time, it's so tough. I mean, 8 is a favorite of mine. 10 was a really good show. 17 is the one that everybody holds up there. I'd probably have to go with 17. I just think top to bottom, when you look at that card, Austin Rock on top, Triple H and Undertaker had nothing on the line, but it was a really good match. Shane and Vince had that street fight. Zombie Linda sitting up from her chair, getting that huge pop from the crowd. That was awesome. The gimmick battle royal, which as a match, it sucked, but for somebody like me who remembers all those gimmicks, I love that shit. And plus, you had Mean Gene and Bobby Heenan on commentary. That was really Bobby Heenan's last, commentary performance, I guess you would call it. So, Angle and Benoit. I mean, I'm sure there's some I'm not even remember. Oh, well, the TLC match, TLC 2, which in my opinion was the best of all the TLC matches. You got to go WrestleMania 17. I don't really see how it could be anything else. Worst WrestleMania of all time. Yeah, 27 was bad. I know it had Undertaker and Triple H, but man, that was bad. 27 was bad. I'm sure there was another one. 29 has to... You know what? 29 may well be the worst. 29 is definitely on the list. 13 is an awful show, but it has Bret Hart and Stone Cold, which some say is the best WrestleMania match ever. It's hard for me to put a show in the last slot when it has maybe the best match of all time. That's a hard thing to do. 13's on there, though. 29 may be at the top of my list. Let's do a few more here, and we'll wrap it up. You can still call in. 917-809-7297 as we approach the 3.5-hour mark, which is a pretty good amount of time, I think, to end on here shortly. But let's take a few more. Let's go to Jamel, actually. Jamel in Brooklyn, one half of the Brooklyn Bombers.
Hey, how you doing, Jason, man? Happy 10 year. Hope to hear 10 more after that.
Thank you. Thanks for calling. Thanks for calling in. I'm glad you were able to get through.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. My question is, if you could take one face and one heel from NXT right now and bring them up to the main roster to hopefully, change the format of the roster right now and make a good impact, who would you bring up and why would you bring them up?
Okay, so 2 call-ups from NXT, one heel and one face. Oh, that's a good one. That is a good one. A guy like Drew McIntyre, he's got all the tools that he needs, I think, to be a success on the main roster. Maybe SmackDown. I feel like SmackDown would be a better fit for him. So, I don't know who you then... I guess you could put the title on Adam Cole. That's fine. So, yeah, I guess Drew could put some star power on that show. He could be the babyface. As far as the heel, you could call up Galloway and Adam Cole, but I feel like if you get rid of one, you got to keep the other down there to keep the ship afloat until they bring somebody else in. trying to think who else they have there who could really make an impact if you call them up. I mean, the Authors of Pain, I think after this Takeover show, wouldn't surprise me if they get called up. I'm just like I'm a huge fan of theirs, so I wouldn't pick them. But, you know, I don't know. I mean, Drew Galloway would be one as far as the heel goes. You know, I don't know. Honestly, I need time to think about that. I don't know who I would want to pick. You can go with Almas. I think Almas and Zelina Vega as a combo, you know, they work great together. I think you could put them on either Raw or SmackDown. I don't know what his ceiling is, though. You know, he's doing well in NXT, but I look at a guy like him, honestly, and I think when if he ultimately comes up to the main roster, I don't know how far he's really going to go. I just don't see them giving him like a big push and him being that big of a star on Raw or SmackDown. But you know what? I might have said the same thing about Del Rio. And Del Rio became a world champion and Money in the Bank and all that, so who knows? You know, and I think he's probably every bit as good as Del Rio was. And Del Rio got a big push, and I'm sure they want a big new Latin star. So, a couple more here. Let's go to Richard in Ohio. Here we go. We got him now. Richard.
Hey, Jason. Happy 10th anniversary. Great. Always loved your world. Loved you since 2007.
Thank you, sir.
I just have a quick question. I know you're a big horror movie buff. What do you think of the new It movie?
You know, I didn't see it. I actually haven't seen it yet. That's funny. I haven't seen it yet. Because I haven't seen the original, and I have people telling me you got to see the original first before you see the new one. So, I mean, maybe people in the chat will have a different opinion on that. Believe it or not, you know, I love horror movies. I never saw the original It. And I guess it was maybe a TV series. I know, you know, it was a book. Didn't read the book, didn't see the TV series, didn't see any of the movies. But I was hesitant because people told me I should wait and you know, see the original first. So I ended up just not seeing it. So you tell me, is it worth seeing? I mean, it seemed to get good reviews. I'm hoping at some point I'll be able to see it. We have Spencer in Bob's Ferry, New York. Is that right?
That's right, Solomonster. How's it going, man?
Good, Spencer. How are you?
Good. Before I get to my question, I wanted to say thank you for all the years of great audio you've given us. I mean, I've been a fan for exactly a year today now, and you've gotten me through so much. I mean, I had a stomach surgery this July, and every day in the hospital I listened to your show. I'd rerun it almost every day, and it'd feel like it was brand new every day. So I wanted to thank you for everything you've done for the wrestling community and everything you've done for me. I'm really beyond words for everything you've done.
Thank you. I hope you're doing better now with the stomach stuff.
I'm doing great. And the question I wanted to ask you is that my first wrestling show was in April of 2005. It was at Madison Square Garden. It was a super show, as they called it. It was Raw and SmackDown, and they taped SmackDown before Raw went live. And I got to see Hulk Hogan. I was in third grade. I'm 21 right now, and to me that was the most amazing experience. The Garden went crazy. He came out to save Shawn Michaels when Muhammad Hassan and Daivari attacked Shawn Michaels. And I wanted to know, what was your greatest memory of your first ever WWE show you've seen live?
That's a good question. Thank you. My earliest memory of a WWE show that I went to, and I know I've talked about this on the show before, was in 1987. It was the end of 87. It was in, where was it? It was either Madison Square Garden or it was the arena in Jersey. And I'm pretty sure it was the Garden. And the main event was for the Intercontinental title, believe it or not. It was an IC title match in the main event. It was Honky Tonk Man defending against Randy Savage, and they had Jimmy Hart up in a shark cage. There's that friggin' shark cage again. This thing just won't go away. But they had a shark cage up above the ring. Jimmy Hart was inside of it, and I was like mesmerized by this because I don't remember. We weren't that far from the ring. I wasn't like front row or anything. But I just remember looking up at that cage, and I'm like, oh my God, you know, he's really... I was terrified for Jimmy because he was, you know, playing scared, and he was probably a good 15 feet up there. I don't remember anything else on the card. You can ask me what the rest of the card was. I couldn't even tell you. I'm sure Hogan wasn't on the card because Savage was in the main event. So they did those split crews back then where you can have an IC match in the main event in one city, and Hogan could defend the title in another one. But that's my earliest memory of being at a live show. It goes all the way back to, I want to say that was the show they did right after Christmas in 1987. Let's go to Jeremy, another New Yorker here, Yonkers, New York.
Hey there, Solomonster. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. In about 40 minutes, it's about to be my 19th birthday, so I'm pretty excited.
Happy birthday, Jeremy.
Thank you. I've been watching your show for a better part of 2 years. It's cool to see that you're making 10 years already. I'm a bit nervous right now.
Yeah, don't be. We're all family here.
Oh, thank you. I have about 2 questions for you. One quick one. Let's say they hold off that storyline. Well, they already have that storyline with Goldust finding a protege. And how would you feel about the Velveteen Dream when he gets called up being his protege?
That's a good one. And I hadn't thought about that because there's a lot of similarities between the two characters. You know what? I think it would do more to help Goldust than it would the Velveteen Dream. I mean, Velveteen Dream is doing his thing right now with Aleister Black. I'm really digging the hell out of what they're doing in NXT. I don't know when they're going to call him up to the main roster. There's no rush. Although if they called him up, I think he's more than ready. Remember, before he was on Tough Enough, he was wrestling for a whole bunch of years. It's not like he's a rookie. So I think he would do more to help, he would do more to help Goldust at this point, because Goldust is doing a whole lot of nothing. So it's an interesting idea. I don't know how they would work it, but I would not be opposed to it. We have 619 on the line.
Hey, this is Vic in San Diego. I apologize to Noah for being kind of quiet earlier. I was talking to my mom about some stuff. Hi, Jason.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I had kind of a question. It's about Lucha Underground and AAA. Let's say Lucha Underground hypothetically, never comes back, but they decide to integrate it into AAA programming. What are a few characters that you'd want to see in Lucha Libre AAA that would get you to watch that product, knowing that they don't broadcast in English and it's only in Spanish?
So, I mean, as far as what kind of matches I'd like to see?
No, luchadors or storylines or.
Oh, whatever. I gotcha. Okay. I guess there should be stories. It's just a matter of whether or not it would translate well to somebody who doesn't really speak the language. So, I mean, you can have a Lucha Libre... Lucha Underground was perfect. I mean, it was a Lucha Libre type of show, but it was in English. So I could understand everything that was going on. I could understand everything that was being said. I could follow along, and I loved the hell out of it. I stuck with that show all 3 seasons. And if they come back for a season 4, I'll keep watching. If they could come up with a product like that, maybe not as supernatural and all that kind of stuff, and it was on a station that was easily accessible for me, I'd give them a shot. But I don't know how to answer your question. I'm not interested in just wrestling matches. There has to be something more, like some character type development. But if they could put on a product like that and it was easily accessible, yeah, absolutely. I would love to give it a shot. Let's see here. We have, I don't even know what state this is, but this is area code 915.
Hey, what's up? It's from El Paso, by the way.
Oh, hey, how are you?
Hi, this is Jonathan Gonzalez from the Facebook group. I just want to tell you happy 10th anniversary.
Thank you.
And my question was, what are your top 3 Chris Jericho matches?
Top 3 Chris Jericho matches. Oh, man, he's had a lot of great matches. Shawn Michaels and him had a ladder match at No Mercy, I think in 2008, that I remember being really quite great. So I might put that on my list. The list. It's funny. Let's see, what else? Best Chris Jericho matches that stand out to me. Somebody mentioned that Last Man Standing match earlier he had in 2000 with Triple H. That was a really good one. There was a series of matches he had with Rey Mysterio as well. Although I can't really pick one in particular, but I remember that whole series being really good. Yeah, I mean, those are the ones that jump out at me, honestly. I mean, again, that's the kind of question where this guy's been wrestling for like 20 years. I need more time to go back and just think about all the different, all the different periods that he's been through and all the different shows. I mean, my memory of all of his matches is kind of scattershot, but I'm sure if you gave me time, I could probably come up with a whole top 10 for it if I really wanted to. Rick in Seattle.
Hello, Solomonster. Of course, like everyone said, congratulations on 10 years. Looking forward to 10 more. Now, I'll make it quick for you. Obviously, we have some ideas on what some of the WrestleMania matches are going to be. I believe 5 are really obvious. 3 of them you already went over: Lesnar Reigns, Mahal Cena, and Styles Nakamura. Here are 2 more that I think are really obvious based on the tea leaves. One you've mentioned before, I'm sure, is going to be Ambrose and Rollins. In fact, I think Ambrose is going to be Roman Reigns' first program for the title coming out of WrestleMania. But here's the other one that no one seems to be predicting, and I'm just looking at all the tea leaves. I'm looking at who's getting a big monster heel push. We see the talent that's been advertised for the Raw 25th anniversary right before Royal Rumble. I'm predicting it right now at WrestleMania. 20 years after their first match from WrestleMania 14, it will come full circle. We know that these 2 guys trust each other in the ring. It'll be Kane versus Undertaker. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I don't know about that. I'm not saying they wouldn't do it, but I have no interest in seeing that. I mean, you could do almost like a double retirement type of match, but I don't know. I mean, Undertaker and Kane in '98, they had a good match. Undertaker and Kane in 2004, I guess, when they would have had that rematch. I don't remember that match being particularly good. Now, you fast forward 13 years or 14 years after that, and you put those 2 in the ring. I just think it's a horrible thing to put Undertaker in a singles match against somebody unless it's somebody who can just carry him to a decent enough match. I mean, Roman gave him a decent match, but nobody wants to see him go out there and embarrass himself. So, I mean, I guess as a story, I guess it could work, but yeah, I don't really have any interest in that. I can't say that I'm all that excited about that as a possibility. All right, let's do a couple more here, and then we'll wrap it up. 773, you're on the air.
Jason, can you hear me well? I
can hear you.
How's it going, Jason? Congratulations on the anniversary once again.
Thank you.
This is kind of a little backstory to what my question is. When I had my first episode, I was watching. It was the episode where Kurt Angle was going to face a confrontation with Vince McMahon as a GM back in the early SmackDown days. And Vince McMahon decided at the end of the episode to fire him and put him in a match against Eddie Guerrero. When I was watching this, I was a kid, and not knowing much about wrestling, I thought Kurt Angle was just some weak guy, being a cowardly GM and everything, and I thought that Eddie Guerrero was going to beat him up like crazy. And after watching months of Kurt Angle dominating, I was very confused because I thought he was just some random corporate guy. And I think that's like the effects of watching it as a kid. So my question is for you, when you were watching as a kid, what is the most kind of embarrassing thing you can look back on thinking as a kid about how you watched wrestling compared to right now?
I mean, when I was a kid, I thought there were some things that like terrified me. I mean, there was one angle that they did on one of those. It wasn't even Saturday Night's Main Event. It was one of the main event. They did it at the beginning of '88. It was a Hogan King Kong Bundy match, and Hogan beats him, and Andre is out there. Andre is in Bundy's corner, and Hogan's like, taunting him, come on, and Andre backs off, and Hogan's posing, and then as he's posing, Andre gets in the ring, comes up behind him, and just wraps his friggin' meat hooks around his throat and starts choking the life out of this guy. Now, he's choking him. Hogan's just struggling for oxygen. I'm watching this, and nobody is helping this guy. Andre starts ragdolling him around by the throat. I'm thinking, oh my God, this guy's dying. He's gonna murder him. Somebody has to do something. Because I'm a naive little kid, and I don't know any better. And then finally, guys came out, and Duggan broke a board over his back and all that, and they dragged Hogan out of there. But yeah, I mean, as a kid, you watch something like that, you're just absolutely mortified by it. especially as a Hogan fan. If I hated Hogan, I would have loved it. I would have grabbed the popcorn. I would have told him squeeze harder. But as a young Hulkamaniac, I was tormented by that. Let's see here. Oh my goodness gracious, we have so many more calls. I apologize if there are people who I just haven't been able to get to, but we have a few more. They've been waiting a long time. It's not right. Let me get to them here. Jose from New York City, you're on the air.
How's it going, brother? It's the Hustler.
How are you, my friend?
Pretty good. It was good meeting you this past year at WrestleMania. Funny enough, during this whole live show, Jimmy Jacobs and Santino Marella has showed up to TNA. Great things, I know.
Very, very exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah. So now to my question. Going back to the whole Chris Jericho thing, now that he's going to New Japan for this show, maybe it's to set up maybe talks with the man, probably, convincing him to do a little merge. And the last time, Brenda Liger was in the NXT Brooklyn, and they worked with each other ever since. So my question is, maybe Jericho convinces the man in the future to do a little thing for future shows like a WrestleMania. Who do you think Vince would send to New Japan to do a show?
Well, I don't see that happening at all. I mean, this is all just fantasy here. Just because Jericho's doing Wrestle Kingdom, I doubt he convinces Vince to do anything with New Japan. I mean, they're really at war right now. They really are. They're at war for talent. They're not working together at all. I don't see how this changes it. I mean, if anything, this could have the opposite effect if let's say WWE isn't very happy about it. As far as if they did, who would they send over there? I would think you would want to send some of your big guns. So I think a guy like Samoa Joe. I think AJ Styles. AJ Styles to me would be a given, because here's a guy who was very popular and the audience in Japan knows who he is. Nakamura. I think AJ, Nakamura, Joe, guys like that. I could see them sending maybe like a Roman Reigns just to have one of their really, really big guys go over there. But I think it would end up being guys like Joe and AJ and Nakamura, who already have a following and were very popular, and the people over there would know who they are, and it would be a big reaction, when they first walk out there. So that would be my guess. Let's go to area code 561. You are on the air.
You just put me on the phone, Solomonster.
Oh, we have Noah Mark on the phone. How about that?
Hi, you know what? I'm going to bow out. You talk to this Air Force, United States Air Force gentleman, Curtis. He's way more interesting than me.
Yeah, I see him now. So I'm gonna get him on. I'm gonna get him on the line.
He's on now.
Is he on now? Oh, okay. Curtis, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, how are you? You're on the air.
Oh, I'm doing well. How you doing, man?
Good. You're calling. Is it from New Mexico?
Yeah, Clovis, New Mexico.
Very nice. Right now, I see a note here about Korea. What's that all about?
So I started listening to you in 2013 on a station in Korea, and been listening ever since, man. Appreciate you, and congratulations on 10 years.
Thank you. That's very cool. I appreciate that.
So I listen every Sunday. My wife and kids live out in Albuquerque. I drive home every Sunday back here to Clovis, so it gives me something to listen to on the ride back. Keep doing what you're doing, man.
Thank you. Anything else, or is that it?
No, man. No questions. I just want to say thank you for providing the free content for all the folks around.
Well, thank you for calling in, man. I appreciate that.
All right. Thanks, brother.
All right. So that is from Curtis from New Mexico. Let's go to... I want to go to somebody else here. I want to go to two more, and then we'll wrap up. I know I keep saying that. I don't want the fun to end. I want to try to get to as many people as I can here. Let's go to Justin from New York. Justin, you're on the air.
Hi, Jason. Hi, congratulations on 10 years. I just wanted to ask, what was your favorite year in ROH, and what do you think is missing in wrestling? I feel a must-see-ness is what's missing right now. So elaborate on that.
Okay, must-see-ness. I don't know if that's a word, but I feel you. I know what you mean. Best year of ROH. To me personally, I was going to ROH shows from 06, pretty consistently from 06 to like 2010-ish. And then after that, it wasn't as consistent. I look back on that, I think 2007, 2008, probably one of those years would be the best in Ring of Honor. I mean, they were killing every show. They were having shows at the Manhattan Center, whether it was upstairs in the ballroom or downstairs at the Hammerstein. I mean, that was like the glory period of guys like Samoa Joe and Bryan Danielson, and I guess AJ was gone by that point. But just so many, and Nigel McGuinness, just so many talented guys in the company back then. Even after Punk and AJ and those guys left. So that would be my pick as far as what's missing in wrestling. I mean, hey, again, we don't have enough time to go through that. Yeah, it's just that must-see factor. It's just not there. I don't think you could just blame it on PG. I don't think you could just blame it on PG. You can't just blame it on Vince. I mean, it's a lot of different factors. It's corporate sponsors. It's too much content, kind of makes it, waters it down. I mean, we can make a laundry list of things. It's not what it used to be. I think you just got to look for the things that you like and just focus on that and tune out the rest, which a lot of you I know are already doing. Let's go to Eddie, the Angry Tech in the Bronx.
What's going on, man?
How are you, Eddie?
We meet again.
Yes, we do. I believe the last time we saw each other was at the beer hall. Oh my God, are you outside?
No, I'm actually at work, man.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, we had that shot of Jack together.
Well, what's your question, Eddie?
I just want to know, what's your top 3 most intriguing matches that never ever happened? Like for me, mine will be Kurt Angle versus Daniel Bryan, Sting versus Undertaker, and AJ Styles versus Shawn Michaels. How about you?
Top 3 matches that never happened. Rock and Shawn Michaels would probably be near the top. Well, not at the top. It would be near the top of my list. I mean, we know the reasons that it didn't, but Rock and Shawn would be one. My number 1 would probably be Kurt Angle and Bret Hart. I just think those two, I think just would have worked amazingly together. And it's a real shame. I'm sure Bret would have loved to work with Kurt. Kurt would have loved to work with Bret. It would have been a masterclass, and it's a real shame we didn't get a chance to see it. So Bret and Kurt, Rock and Shawn. If I had to pick one more, man, I guess I can go with the obligatory Hogan and Austin. If you had both of them at their peak, and you put Stone Cold against Hulk Hogan, I think that would be a clash of styles, to say the least. I think is an understatement. I would love to see how that match would turn out. Not so much, in their older years, but again, more closer to their peak. Let's do one more here. Let's go to, another New Yorker here. Kadeem in New York.
How you doing, Solomonster? My question would be, what would be your favorite returns? It doesn't matter what company, 2 or 3 different kinds.
Okay, 2 or 3 favorite returns. One, probably the number 1 is Austin at Backlash in 2000 when he came back. I know he was still not in tip-top shape because he had only had neck surgery about 3 months earlier, but that was an incredible reaction that he got. Mowed down 6 people with a steel. Didn't even hit a stunner. Did not even hit a single stunner. He mowed down 6 people with a steel chair and just walked right out. That one was awesome. I'd put that at number 2. If I had to put a number 3, Kane's return from that Raw show in February of 2000 stands out to me. When he came back, he was wearing that badass, it was red and black, but it was different than his original costume. And Triple H and the Radicals were out there. They were beating down all the baby faces. It was after that big 10-man tag. And Paul Bearer came out in that red jacket, and the fire hit, and out came Kane, and he just laid waste to everybody. That was Kane at his most badass, I think, in 2000. And number 1 is The Undertaker. Judgment Day, also in 2000. Holy shit, I just named 3 returns from the year 2000. How badass was that year? Kane's return in February, Austin's return in April, Undertaker's return in May. And I didn't even plan it to come out that way, but there it is. All from 2000. It tells you right there how badass that year was. But when Undertaker came out as the American Badass, man, I know not everybody was sold on that character, but you can't deny that return, it blew the roof off the place. And gave Shane a big choke slam, legit punched Vince in the face. I don't know if he broke his nose. I heard he broke his nose. I don't know if he actually broke his nose or not. But I know that when Vince left, he was, his nose was bloody. So Undertaker caught him good there. So yeah, that would be my my top 3. It's a lot of questions that we're able to get through here. I do have just some final PayPal shout-outs to get through. AJ Grim Reaper Grimaldo, thank you for your support. The Con Man, Michael Connolly, Adorable Adamar Garcia, Pistol Patrick Krauthamel, Lord Have Mercy Versi Jones, Deranged Daniel Van Atta, Scorpion Scott Keena, Bonebreaker Justin Bridge, Angel of Death Garcia, and University of Thugonomics graduate Glenn Warnicki. So thank you to all of you who made a donation here to the podcast. It is very much appreciated. And just checking some stats here. We've had an amazing number of attempted calls here tonight. I'm very curious to see what the final number is of all the drop calls. We had 10,000 last time. I have a feeling we probably topped that this time. Tried to get to as many people as I could. We still actually have some people waiting. Yeah, we'll take a few more. What the hell? It's not like I have work tomorrow. Actually, I do have work tomorrow. But let's go to... literally, we'll take 2 or 3 more and then we'll call it quits. Let's go to Texas. Chuck in Brownsville.
Yes, hello.
Hey.
What's up, Solomonster?
I'm good. What's your question?
It's good. I have a kind of a 2-parter, man. I don't want to bother you with this.
If you could condense it, you can go for it.
All right. First one. What do you think about the dynamic of having Edge and Christian as the GMs of Raw and SmackDown? You can have Christian be the slimy heel and Edge the babyface. And also...
Oh, I dropped him. Shit. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that, but at least you got the one question out. Edge and Christian is dueling GMs on Raw and SmackDown. I think that could be fun. I think that could be fun. I have to say, I've listened to Edge and Christian's podcast. Christian doesn't... It's like the polar opposite of how he was when he was a heel on WWE television. He's just very quiet, very reserved, and it's like you have to really try hard sometimes to listen to him. And sometimes I'll listen, I'll be like, dude, speak up. Show some, show some excitement, show some personality. But on TV as a heel, I always thought he was very entertaining. So if he was the heel and Edge was the babyface, yeah, I think that could work. I mean, I don't want to get rid of Kurt Angle. I think Kurt and Shane are fine right now, but maybe at some point down the road, if you want to get the 2 of them on TV, I wouldn't mind it. I think that could be fun. Jason from Illinois, you are on the air.
Hello. I just had a question about the Cruiserweight Championship, but do you think they should drop it in favor of a low-card title so that the current Cruiserweights can venture off into higher-ranking titles and allow for other people to battle for the like a generic low-card title without a weight class?
Yeah, as long as you have a cruiserweight title, you're kind of limited, right? There's only so much upward mobility that you have. I think that's one of the reasons why we don't see Neville on television anymore. So getting rid of the cruiserweight title would be fine with me. But there are some guys in the cruiserweight division who, without it, would not have a shot. They really would not have much of a place on the main roster right now. And I think a better place for them may well be in NXT. I think there are some guys on that 205 Live roster who would probably be a better fit in NXT right now, and maybe would get more, TV time, and they wouldn't be limited by how much they weigh. So that's the problem that you have with the cruiserweight division. You're going to be very limited, and some guys are better off for it because they wouldn't even be on TV without it. There's a lot of guys who, unfortunately, I look at a Cedric Alexander. How long is he supposed to be toiling away in the cruiserweight division? Now he's going to be doing a tag team with Rich Swann. I'm like, all right, I guess that's okay, but Cedric can be an Intercontinental Champion. He could be a U.S. Champion. Could he be a World Champion one day? Maybe one day. But there's no reason for him not to be fighting for a mid-card title right now. As long as he's in that division, it's just never going to happen. Jacob, I believe, has a buy or sell.
Hi, Solomonster. This is Jacob from Springfield, Missouri. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Congratulations on your 10-year anniversary. And I have a buy or sell on Rockstar Spud, who you mentioned earlier in the show. I have a buy or sell when it comes to Rockstar Spud. Do you think why the fact that he goes to the Cruiserweight division for 205 Live? Does he serve a chief of staff to either William Regal or Steph McMahon like he did with Dixie Carter in TNA? Or does he work as like a sidekick from like a side character like he did with EC3? And personally, in my opinion, I think he would work great with The Miz if it wasn't for The Miz Taraj already.
Yeah, I like the idea of him as a sidekick for somebody. Not sure who, maybe somebody new from NXT. Maybe he can be paired off with them when they get brought up. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that would be a good role for him. You could just stick him in 205 Live, but again, he's just another body. Rockstar Spud's not going to do anything for that division. So, a guy like him, I compare him a lot to Enzo. Enzo, they missed the mark by not pairing him off with Big Cass. They could still do it. You know, when Cass comes back, they could still pair the two of them together, especially now that Enzo is a heel. I think he could be, and I think he should be a mouthpiece for Big Cass. So I think I see a Rockstar Spud filling the kind of role that, frankly, Enzo should have had, and they didn't go with it. Let's end there. We have taken a lot of your phone calls. We've gone through a lot of emails. We've covered all the news of the day. We did a lot more than I thought I would. I want to thank every single person who was part of the show in some way, shape, or form and helped make this show possible. That includes all of the callers. That includes Noah Mark, who has been manning the phones for us and has been a tremendous help to me in more ways than one. So I know he's listening. I thank him for all of his support. I thank all of you for helping me get to 10 years. Let's do this again when we get to 15. Maybe when we get to 20. Who even knows if YouTube will be a thing? Probably not, right? The way these things come and go. But whatever platform it may be, hopefully we'll still be rocking and rolling when we get to that point. We will have this audio up on the feed. So if you want to download it, it should be, I don't know exactly when. It may not be, honestly, until tomorrow night. I don't know when tomorrow the audio will be up, but I'll do it as early as I can, if need be, when I get home from work. So this will eventually hit the feed if you want to download the audio here. We went, how long have we gone so far? We have gone close to 4 hours. So there you go. Only a little bit shorter than episode 500 was. So that's a pretty good length. We will be back with episode 521 next weekend. I believe is that the final? No, we have one more. I think we have one more weekend before Survivor Series. So we'll probably do TakeOver predictions on next weekend's show. I think that would be the plan. And then Survivor Series is right around the corner. Survivor Series is not that far away. They got some work to do on that card. I'm a lot more excited, like I said before, for NXT and for Wrestle Kingdom than I am for this big Raw versus SmackDown deal Raw versus SmackDown. That annoys people sometimes when I say it that way. So Raw versus SmackDown at Survivor Series. They got some work to do. We'll see AJ and Jinder Tuesday night. A lot of you think he's winning the championship. I think you're out of your mind. I think you're being lulled. You're being lulled into a situation where I think you're going to be very disappointed when it is over. But I will be happy to eat crow on the podcast next week if I am incorrect. I would never be happier to be wrong than I am here if AJ Styles does win the WWE Championship. So again, be well, stay safe. Thank you everybody for tuning into this 10-year anniversary show. I love you all. And I will see you back all on the usual platforms for the Sound Off next weekend. Until then, take care, guys.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. The Solomonster Sounds Off.
Mundo goes to leave, and Taya says, "Wait, aren't you going to put any pants on?" He just goes, "No time for pants." And he walks off. That also happens to be Randy Orton's philosophy in life. My philosophy, too. See, you don't know if I'm wearing pants right now or not, do you? You can't see. I could be wearing nothing right now for all you know. No time for pants.
Solomonster Sounds Off. Since 2007, the Solomonster Sounds Off. Available at thesolomonster.com, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, iTunes, and more.
Solomonster Sound Off.